Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. Happy Saturday. That's the newish single from Magdalena Bay. New music from Magdalena Bay. Very excited for their new album coming out soon. Is it soon? It's got to be pretty soon. I think it's relatively soon. I don't think it's a super long lead up. I don't think it is last time I checked, but my memory sucks. But I'm very excited. I'm a big Magdalena Bay head, championing them for a while now. Welcome to the stream. Happy Saturday. Very very normal Saturday we're having. Very normal Saturday we're having here. You know, just you know, just normal. As I said, as I posted, I'm pretty sure things are somehow gonna find a way to become even dumber in the next, I was gonna say few weeks, but that even seems too long of a time period. In the next coming days. So yeah, welcome to the stream. Hope everyone's doing great. I had a great Saturday. I was out and about. I was outside most of the day. I would have been outside longer, but then it decided to rain. So I was like, can't do this. Can't be outside. Well, I could be outside. Rain's not too bad. I let it rain on me a bit. But then I'm glad I decided to come in when I did, because it started pouring at some point. So I dodged it. So welcome to Higurashi. The intention is going to be finally, after a few streams of not getting through 3 sections, I definitely want to try to get, did I say 3? 2? 2 sections? We'll try to get to 2 sections tonight and call it a great Higurashi Saturday stream. I didn't mentally prepare myself for a recap here. If I'm remembering correctly, Tuesday's stream was basically the scene of Shion and Kechi, because we are now in what we would say current times, present times. So we saw the scene of them, the two of them, with blonde-haired lady and Tomatake entering where they should not be, from the perspective of Shion this time, obviously, because that's what this chapter is. We saw how much she was not enjoying it. And yeah, other than that, like, obviously Kechi was back reintroduced after some time away from the story because of timeline stuff. Obviously, he wouldn't be, he only arrives when he did. You know, there were some bits, I think, about Shion every once in a while thinking about Satoshi, kind of still yearning, kind of still missing him. And I think that's kind of it. I mean, but she mostly has given up, as far as if I'm remember correctly, mostly given up hope finding him. I think there were bits where she was like, you know, reporting back to Oishi certain things, but it wasn't obviously leading anywhere. It honestly would have been a shock if it was leading to anywhere, because as far as we know, as far as we've seen in previous chapters, it wasn't like it was leading to anywhere. They weren't any close to potentially finding the whereabouts of a potential ran away Satoshi. And I think that was pretty much it. Basically, like I said, it was the reintroduction of basically the festival proper, the form of the festival that we're most familiar with, the lively production, the dancing of Rika, and then obviously Tomatake and Takano, and then them getting into the place where they should not be. The whatever it's called. I keep wanting to say shrine. It's not it's not the shrine. It's like a storage torture storage shed. Glorified torture storage shed. Let's go. So yeah, we'll try to get through 2 sections tonight. Assuming this first one's not like, or either of them I guess is like 5 hours long or something. My relatives gathered at the Sonozaki house after the festival to have a little party. I mingled with my uncles and had fun. I was trying to get rid of my eerie memories of the ritual storehouse. Mion was acting as the successor, so I tried to stay away from her. I'm sure she would feel weird if I talked to her in a formal way. In consideration of the hag's old age, we ended the party around 11 p.m. We all helped to clean up, with the women washing the dishes in the kitchen, and the men folding the tables and putting them away in a storeroom. It only took about 30 minutes. Then everyone left, one after another. By then, Mion was no longer acting as Sonozaki's successor and was back to being her normal self. Maybe I overexerted a little. I was lying on the tatami floor. Kasai asked me if I could get in the car. So I told him I'd rather not move anymore. So relatable. OBS updated their visual. Mostly the biggest thing that they updated to me is the audio bars. And every time I look, because I'm constantly monitoring like audio as we play. And then I'm like, every time I look at it, it looks foreign. Shion says, sis, can I spend the night here? I just want to sleep. Granny will get mad if she finds you. By the way, don't you have school tomorrow, Shion? No, tomorrow is our school's anniversary, so there's no class. How many times a year does your school have its anniversary? Oh, well. Okay, Kasai-san. She can stay here tonight. Understood. Good night. I already feel like this is gonna lead to something bad, right? Because, like, if I was Shion, I'd be so paranoid about what we did that day, where I'd be like, get me the furthest distance away, get me out of this village. Sure, I might be tired and lazy feeling, but just get me away. I don't want to be here. Anyway, he says understood. Good night. Come on, Shion, wake up. Granny will get really mad if you fall asleep here. Here, hold on to me. You can sleep in my room. Sis, alter ego told me that I'm in a demon's stomach. I wouldn't have woken up if I hadn't heard that voice. But when I stop, he always walks one extra step. I might not have woken up at all. Page 165. I didn't remember much after that. I was probably brought to Mion's room and immediately crawled into the futon. After a while, Mion got her futon ready next to me, turned the lights off, and went to sleep. At least, that's what I thought. I got up and turned the lights on. Mion's futon was empty. The futon felt cold. Mion must have left it a while ago. Did she go to the bathroom? No. The closest bathroom was right there down the hallway. The light in the bathroom was off. Where did she go? The ticking of the clock was loud and annoying in the silence. The hands pointed to a little timer before 3 a.m. Wait, where did I get the word timer from? The hands pointed to a little before 3 a.m. This is mental degradation on my part. I was left alone all of a sudden in this late night. I felt the eeriness. I said it and immediately knew that I was like, where did I would have gotten that? I felt the eeriness of the ritual storehouse coming back to me after almost managing to forget in the ruckus earlier. I tried to sense my surroundings. In this house, there shouldn't be an eerie atmosphere, strange noises, or footsteps. I stepped out into the freezing cold hallway to look for Mion. When I did, I immediately noticed light coming from one of the nearby rooms. That room belonged to the hag. The hag went to sleep early and woke up early. She was very strict about her bedtime, so it was strange to see her light on in the middle of the night. I could hear voices, too. Those voices belonged to the hag and Mion. I creeped up to the room and listened to their conversation. Since it was the middle of the night, I could hear their words very clearly. But you know... Those young ones went too far. You're right. They made Oyashiro-sama angry, so I guess they got what they deserved. Mion's voice sounded as cold as the one I'd heard down in the torture room. I held my breath. The police say they're investigating, but are you sure? I guess. It's probably Takano-san. My heart almost stopped. Oyashiro-sama got angry. The police are investigating. It's probably Takano-san. And what day was it today? Those words told me that something was happening. My teeth started to chatter. I desperately tried to stop them. I felt like my body was swelling up suddenly. I could no longer hear as well. Calm down. Breathe. Listen more carefully. According to Mion and the hag's conversation, another incident definitely took place. The victims were Takano-san and Tomatake-san. From what I could tell, both Mion and the hag thought it made sense that whatever it was happened to them. No. I need to think more calmly. They did say they deserved it for making Oyashiro-sama. Angry. Did they say Takano-san and Tomatake-san made Oyashiro-sama angry? How did they make Oyashiro-sama angry? They knew. My body started to shake. They knew we snuck into the ritual storehouse. Then would that mean Keshi and I were also subject to Oyashiro-sama's curse? Suddenly, a phone rang. The phone was by the front door. The front door was opposite the hag's room, farther down the hall. The ringing echoed throughout the long hallway. It sounded so eerie, almost like it was coming from hell. That was when I felt someone behind me. Of course, there was nobody there when I turned around, but there was someone there a moment ago. I didn't know if it was Satoshi-kun. I didn't sense any emotions, so I couldn't tell. I also didn't know how long it had been there. It was as if that somebody was watching me listen in on their conversation. That was the feeling I got. It couldn't be Satoshi-kun. Satoshi-kun would never be that intimidating or scary. My mind turned all red, like it was suffused with blood. Have you experienced anything like that? Those footsteps always followed me. They even came to my bedside. And looked down at me. I remembered what Rino Ryugu had said on that rainy day. You'll be okay, if that's true. Oyashiro-sama won't get mad at you. If Oyashiro-sama wasn't angry, nobody would follow me. So what did this mean? Ever since we snuck into the shrine storage, something has been following me. What is it? Calm down. Calm down. That's right. Mina wasn't talking about me. She was talking about Satoshi-kun. That's what happened to Satoshi-kun.
サトシ君が体験していることはすべてお社様のたたりの前触れなの。
Everything he's going through is a sign of Oyashiro-sama's curse. That's right. That's why I encountered the curse of Oyashiro-sama.
誰かが遠くからじっと伺っている。
You feel someone is watching from a distance.
誰かがずっとつけてくる。
And it follows you. A creepy feeling crawled up and spread across my back.
誰かがいつも自分のすぐ後ろから見ている。
Then it watches from right behind you.
やがて足音は常に自分とずれて一つ余計に聞こえるようになるの。
And after that, you start hearing an extra footstep. I swallowed loudly. It's almost as though Rina Ryuga was predicting what would happen to me. Had Rina been talking about Satoshi-kun back then? Or had she actually been talking about me?
やがて後ろのそれは自分の家の中にまでついてくるようになる。
But you start hearing it even inside your house after a while.
そしてお布団に入って明かりを消してもずっと枕元から見下ろしてるの。
Then, Oyashiro-sama keeps watching you even when you're sleeping in the dark.
ただただ黙って
Right by your side.
じっと。
Waiting silently. I knew by now that there was no mistake. No matter how I looked at it, she had been talking about me. Yes, me. It had been about me. The curse of Oyashiro-sama. What is the curse of Oyashiro-sama? That was when I actually felt something for real. Oh no, it's gonna be like me on from behind. Someone grabbed my collar. Ah! No voice came out. I wanted to scream, but all I could do was to open and close my mouth, as if something was stuck in my throat. I knew it. It was Mion. She looked even colder than how she looked in the underground torture room. Oh, it's creepy music. It only made sense that she'd come out into the hallway to answer the phone. I tried to come up with an excuse. However, the way Mion looked at me was so cold. Even if I really had run into her by accident, I could tell by the look in her eyes that she wouldn't believe me. I felt cold sweat all over my body. I couldn't even move my fingers.
ごめん。
Sorry. I apologized. I could have said something to get myself out of the situation, but the apology came out first. But Mion didn't appear to hear me. She walked to the front door, still holding my collar. The phone was still ringing. Annoyingly. A normal person doesn't usually let a phone ring so long at this time of night. The phone call itself didn't seem real to me. Mion picked up the phone.
ミオンです。
This is Mion?
そうですか。
I see.
わかりました。
I understand.
そちらの対応はよろしくお願いします。
Please take care of things at your end.
それから、一切の口封じをよろしくお願いします。
Also, please make sure that nobody talks about this.
ええ。
Yes.
では。
Goodbye. Mion put down the phone after a short conversation. What did she mean, make sure nobody talks about this? Who called it anyway? Mion put her forehead to mine and spoke to me. Oh boy, oh boy.
聞いてた？
Did you hear? Which conversation was she asking me about? No, Mion, I didn't hear anything. Actually, I lost my ability to hear like a couple years ago. I have no idea what's going on. Which conversation was she asking me about? Well, she had to be talking about the one with the hag. If I said yes, what would happen to me?
知る。何のことかわかんない。
I don't know what you're talking about. Mion pulled my collar, pressed her nose on mine, and continued to speak.
聞こえた通りです。
Just what you heard.
富武さんと高野さんがお社様のたたりに遭われました。
The curse of Oyashiro-sama fell upon Tomitake-san and Takano-san.
本当にお気の毒なことです。
It's really very unfortunate. It was like I was talking to myself in a mirror, but what I was saying in the mirror was ever so cold.
おねお社様のたたりって何です？
Sis, what is the curse of Oyashiro-sama?
富武さんは自らの手で喉をかきむしってお亡くなりになりました。
Tomitake-san killed himself by clawing out his throat.
高野さんは遠くの山奥でドラム缶に詰められて焼き殺されたそうで。
Takano-san was buried to death in an oil burned to death in an oil drum. Or so they think.
実にお気の毒です。
Terrible, isn't it? Tomitake-san clawed at his own throat until he died? What? Takano-san was burned to death in an oil drum? What? What? I felt something furry crawl up my spine. I also felt like my stomach was turning upside down. I didn't feel any strength in my legs. If Mion let go of my collar, I'd probably collapse on the spot.
なんでそんな死に方したのかな。
Why did they die that way?
わかりませんか、シオン。
Don't you know, Shion? I'm asking you because I don't know.
わかんないよ。
I don't know.
理由なんて一つしかないじゃないですか。
Don't you see there can only be one reason? Please don't talk as if I already know the answer.
何の理由かな。
What do you mean? My heart was pounding. I felt that my next breath would be so bloody and hot that I'd choke on it.
そんなこともわかんないのですか。
Don't you know? It's because they made Oyashiro-sama angry. First year, it was the manager of the dam construction site. Second year, it was the traders to the village. The third year was the pacifist. The fourth year, it was the relatives of the traders. I always thought the victims were people who had something to do with the dam conflict. Since I didn't do anything against the village during the dam conflict, I assumed I was safe. I should have known. I should have known everything would be the curse of Oyashiro-sama. I knew Oyashiro-sama's anger was the curse of Oyashiro-sama. I knew Oyashiro-sama would get angry if I snuck into the ritual storehouse. But since I wasn't held responsible in any way for the dam conflict, I never thought I would be a victim of the curse. Did I ever think that there would be an incident in the fifth year? Did I ever think that I'd be the victim of that 5th year incident? Tomitake-san snuck into the storehouse, and he clawed at his own throat until he died? Takano-san was burned to death in an oil drum? It must be a lie. It couldn't be true. Even if it was forbidden, it was just a space for storing some old torture implements. How could they be killed for just sneaking in there? Especially in such gruesome ways. But I thought about it again and realized that those people were absolutely capable of doing things like that. The main Sonozaki family was capable of it. The Sonozaki family had been pulling the strings behind the series of mysterious deaths. They could do it. The Sonozaki family even kidnapped the grandson of the Minister of Construction during the dam conflict. They could do it. The Sonozaki family made Sachikun disappear completely. They could do it. Mion leaned against me before falling into the cold hallway floor. She collapsed rather violently. I usually didn't go to sleep with my stun gun. It's that weird staticky music noise again. I can't tell if it's 100% what it's supposed to sound like or not, or if it's a bug. But since I was too tired and sleepy to get ready for bed, I still had it on me. I had my stun gun on me. I finally understood. I didn't know who killed them exactly, whose idea it was, or who ordered it. I didn't even know who was actually involved. But Mion and the hag knew everything. Sachikun. Now I finally know. Now I know what I need to do. I will settle the score for you, Sachikun. Damn. I will avenge you, Sachikun. I won't be killed like you, Sachikun. Go. I want Shion to go guns a-blazing here. I'm for it. It won't end well for her, but I'm for it. I walked into the hag's room. She was sitting up to take some medicine. Her back was turned to me. Mion and I are twins. If I acted like her, the hag wouldn't notice a difference. I didn't think she ever suspected me. I put my stun gun to her neck and pulled the trigger. I heard an indescribable electrical sound, and the hag's lights went out. She fell in a twisted position. I didn't know how long it would take a person to regain their freedom of movement after getting knocked out with stun gun. Let's see this again. I heard an indescribable electrical sound, and the hag's lights went out. Yes, okay. So I had to restrain them before they woke back up. I was unbelievably calm. The key to the underground torture room was in the forbidden drawer that only the head of the family can access. Mion had told me about this once. I never looked for the drawer before, but I found it exactly where I thought it would be. The key was on a keychain with several of its sisters. Each key had a little plaque on it that said what it was used for. They were all in Mion's handwriting. She was an idiot for being so conscientious, but it sure helped me out. I put the keychain in my pocket and headed to the outdoor storeroom to find a cart. I found a large flashlight there as well. There was a strap on the flashlight so I could put it on my shoulder. That way, I'd have both hands free to carry Mion and the hag. I loaded Mion and then our grandmother onto the cart and carried them to the underground torture room. I was prepared to use the stun gun again if they woke up while I was working. Now, hopefully I'm not getting like the timeline mixed up here, or, you know, who knows if certain events might change, or, you know, what the hell happens, but like, if Shion does all of this stuff, and then later on, what we see later on happen in earlier chapters was like, she gets like brutally tortured, and that was like the scene, I forget what the end of it would have been, at what end of chapter 2, I think. I don't think it was in 3, but where it was like Kechi goes down and sees like Shion there in like the dungeon like thing and that whole thing. I'm not here defending torturing anyone, but I'm just saying it would make a bit more sense if Shion does all of this and then her punishment is that grand. Not just breaking into the storage. She kind of escalated it, maybe. Like, would her punishment have been that bad if it was just that she went into the storage room? Also, as far as we know, you know, as far as I can tell, as so far in the reader, and what I've assumed to be correct as of right now, is that it wasn't a curse, and it wasn't the family, the Sonozaki family, unless information changes, always preface with that. What seemingly happened was Takano killed Toмотake somehow, for whatever reason, and then faked her own death, and then beat town. So it wasn't even the family. Like that, it just seemed like that was Mion saying, hey, you overheard our conversation, right? You heard what happened? And then, much like we saw previously with like bouts with Kechi, is that the fear and the superstition and the fear of the worst thing happening got to Shion, and she assumes the worst thing is going to happen to her just because of that paranoia. And then goes on this whole big side quest. Whatever. I was prepared to use a stun gun again if they woke up while I was working. But it was more powerful than I imagined, and the hag showed no signs of waking. This is a stun gun Kasai specially ordered for me when I told him I wanted a powerful one. I remember him telling me that it was an illegally modified stun gun and that I should never use it just for fun. I used my flashlight to find the light switch. I found it easily and turned it on. All the lights went on in the basement, although there was now illumination. It was very dim. I moved quickly so as to finish what I needed to do before they woke up. I decided to put Mion in a cell beyond the torture room. The lights in the torture room were so bright that it was like daylight. There was a door there. I was fairly certain cells were on the other side of that door. The proper key was here. The keys made a tinkling sound. I felt cold air coming in through the gap in the door. There must be a huge opening on the other side. I opened the door and saw nothing but darkness. I felt along the wall to find a light switch. See, this is the dungeon place I was talking about earlier. I turned the switch on and the light bulbs lit up, revealing a huge rocky cave. It didn't look like a natural cave. It looked more like an air raid shelter. There were several hollow openings with bars across them. Those were the cells. I walked up to the closest cell, checked to see if it was strong enough to confine her. I pushed and pulled on the bars. Now I'm starting to think something. I'm gonna hold on to it, but I pushed and pulled on the bars. I rammed against them with all my weight and decided they were perfectly sturdy. This was secure enough to be called a cell. I opened the lock and carried Mion in. I wasn't particularly strong, just average. I never thought I was strong enough to carry a whole person, but now I didn't need to pretend to be weak. I could easily lift and drag their bodies. I put Mion in the cell. She seemed to moan a little. I didn't need to check to make sure. The effect of my stun gun was wearing off. I closed the bars and turned the key in the lock. Then I ran to the hag, who must have been starting to wake up too. Fortunately, there was no sign of her regaining consciousness. Maybe the difference in age had something to do with it. I looked for a table to restrain her on. I found a wheelchair with restraints for the hands and feet. I put the hag in it. Of course, she didn't resist, but her dead weight made it seem like she was a huge French doll, but one made of flesh. I put her hands on the armrests and restrained them at the wrists with the metal rings and hinges. I did the same with her feet. This must have been a wheelchair specifically modeled to restrain a person. Other than the restraints, it was a regular wheelchair. I waited for the hag to wake up. I had so many things I wanted to ask her. I didn't think she'd answer honestly, but I had plenty of tools to make her talk. I was in no rush. When the hag had a concern, relatives took care of the problem. That was how it worked in the Sonozaki family. She was the leader of the family, so all the information it gathered would make its way to her. She must know everything that happened in Hinamizawa, including the curse of Oishiro-sama. I heard a noise from the cell. Mion must have woken up before the hag did. Speaking of the hag, she didn't seem like she was about to wake up anytime soon, but she was restrained even if she did, so I had no need to fear. What is she gonna do? Break out? I left the hag there and headed for the cell.
Shion, これは何の真似ですか?
Shion, what do you think you're doing? She talked like the successor, but she was also sounded frightened. She obviously understood the situation she was in right now.
おはよう、ミオン。
Good morning, Mion.
まさか自分が閉じ込められることになるとは思わなかった？
You never thought you'd be in there, huh?
園崎家当主代行として命じます。
As the acting head, I order you.
ここを開けなさい。
Open this up. Now, I get it. Shion feels like she has the right to do this. To basically, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, more than defend, but stand up for and try to get answers about Satoshi. She feels the need. She feels like she's a right to do this. But man, I bet Mion and the family and Oryu and all involved are like, damn, we were right in feeling like we should have either just killed Shion at birth and or done away with her when she fucked up previously. And I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm just saying they probably feel stupid they didn't now. Because now they're like, fuck, we didn't get rid of her. In theory, we're kind of lenient. All things considered, as far as lenient you could say of that family being. And now we're being punished. We're getting stun gunned and thrown into cells. As the acting head, I order you, open this up.
声色に一つ凄みが欠けますね。当主様はもっと傲慢な言い方をしなきゃね。
You don't sound so scary in there. You need to talk more like a leader, don't you think?
もっとも、そういう言い方ができたとしても、今のあんたは滑稽なだけなんだけどさ。
Though, talking that way will only make you look like a fool. There was nothing funny about it, but I wanted to intimidate Mion with fake laughter. My laughter echoed throughout the cave. It was artificial and meaningless laughter. I heard it over and over as it echoed. It sounded as if I wasn't the only one laughing. I couldn't stand it, so I stopped. Silence filled the air. That silence almost hurt my ears, so I started to speak.
富武さんと高野さんが今年の犠牲になるとはね。
Tomitake-san and Takano-san became the victims this year.
思わなかった。
I didn't expect that.
高野さんのドラム缶に詰めて焼き殺したってのもなかなかやるね。
What an idea to burn Takano-san to death.
ま、あの人はそういう死に方を自分で希望してたっぽいからね。
But actually, she would be the kind of person who preferred to die that way.
結構満足してるかもよ。
Maybe she's satisfied, huh? Mion didn't say anything. She just stared at me to see how I'd proceed.
富武さんの自分で自分の喉を引き裂いたってのは何？
What about the way Tomitake-san died? He clawed out his own throat, right?
凶器に駆り立てるような怪しいお薬でも注射したの？
Did you give him a shot of some kind?
それともそういう死に方に見せるような拷問道具でもあるわけ？
Or is there a torture device that did that to him? Mion didn't reply. I was smiling boldly, but I became impatient and finally kicked the bars. It made a violent noise. Mion jumped as if it was kicked directly.
返事がないと退屈です。私を怒らせるとどんな得が？
It's boring not to get any answers. Do you have any idea what will happen if I get angry?
私が知るわけないでしょう。
How would I know? Mion finally replied. She was so odious, but at the same time sounded pitiful.
ねえ、ミオン。
Hey, Mion.
次期当主様。
As the successor?
ここまで来ちゃったんだから教えてくださいな。
Why don't you tell me? Let's see. I had just too many things I wanted to ask her. I wanted to ask her about me, about the incident, about the curse, about Satoshi-kun. I didn't even know where to start. Before I asked her about those, I asked her one other thing.
私に対して反抗的な態度をとっても何の得にもならないこと、理解してますよね。
You know there's no point trying to resist, don't you? Mion glared at me silently. Because we were twins, I knew that was just a bluff.
もうここまでやっちゃった以上、私も引っ込みがつかないんで。
We've come this far, so there's no point in me hesitating anymore.
お姉も私に容赦とか躊躇とかそういうものをあまり期待しない方がいいかもです。
You shouldn't expect hesitation or even mercy from me, sis. Mion must have been feeling the cold sweat on her face. Although the light was dim, I could tell she was frightened.
じゃあ聞くよ。
Okay, here I go.
ひなみ沢村連続開始事件。
First, about the series of the mysterious deaths in Hinamazawa.
通称お社様のたたり。
Also known as the curse of Oyashiro-sama.
これってどういう意味があるの？
What's the meaning of it? Are we gonna actually get big answers? Or are we gonna get Mion just not saying anything?
やっぱりダム戦争のけじめってやつ？
Is it to signify the end of the dam conflict?
私は多分そうだと思ってる。
I think so. Mion sounded a little confused, but she answered. I felt satisfaction now that we were communicating. Continued with a smile.
思ってるって言い方が少し頼りないね。
You think, huh?
そのあたりの事情は詳しくないの？
Don't you know the details?
シオンだって分かってるでしょ。
You know yourself.
次期当主なんてバッチャの取り次ぎに過ぎないよ。
That the successor is simply a messenger for Granny. Yeah, right.
その当主様と意思を疎通させて以心伝心なのが次期当主様の役目でしょ。
But the successor must know everything the current head is thinking, right?
取り次ぎに過ぎないなんて信じると思う？
Do you really think I believe you're just a messenger?
いつも身近にいる私だってたまにバッチャが何を考えてるのかわからない時があるもん。
Although I'm always around Granny, I don't always know what she's thinking.
何でもかんでも私が理解してるわけじゃない。
It's not like I can understand her all the time.
じゃあお社様のたたりってのは あいつが全部独断で決めてるわけなんだ。
Okay, so you're saying that everything about the curse of Oyashiro-sama is decided by the hag herself, right?
次期当主様と相談して決めてるのかと思ったよ。
I assume she talked to the successor about it.
やばい話は全部バッチャが一人で決めてる。
When it's something dangerous, Granny decides it on her own.
私なんか預かり知る余地もない。
I don't have anything to do with it.
でもばあさんの独断だとしたって、
But even if she decides by herself,
あいつはあんたを介してやり取りしてるわけでしょ。
Grandma uses you to take care of various things, doesn't she?
そのあんたが何も知らないなんてあるはず。
And you're telling me you don't know anything?
違うよ。
No,
私なんかを介していない。
she doesn't use me for that.
私にだってよくわからないんだけど、
I really don't understand it myself.
私が陽の部分を取り継いでるとしたら、陰の部分を取り継いでる誰かがいると思う。
But it's like I take care of problems on the surface and someone else takes care of the problems on the underside.
誰？
Who?
その影の部分の取り継ぎって。
Who is the one that takes care of those underside problems?
知らない。
I don't know.
誰かを招いて話してるとことか、電話をしているとことか見たことない？
Haven't you seen anyone? Haven't you overheard a phone conversation?
強いて言えば、毎年お社様のたたりの時期になると連絡量がどっと増える相手ね。
It must be someone who gets in touch with the hag at the same time every year, around the time the curse happens.
わかんない。
I don't know.
心当たりなんかないよ。
I really don't. Neon shook her head.
まあいいや。
Okay.
じゃあ質問を変えるね。
Let me change the question.
今年のたたりの富武さんと高野さんはダム戦争に直接関係してないのに、なぜ犠牲に選ばれたの？
Why were Tomotaki-san and Takano-san chosen as victims, even though they had nothing to do with the dam conflict?
やっぱり西宮殿に忍び込んだから？
Was it because they snuck into the ritual storehouse? As soon as Mion heard the words ritual storehouse, her expression shifted.
西宮殿に？
The ritual storehouse?
フルテ神社の西宮殿を犯したの？
Did they intrude on the storehouse at the Furude Shrine? Now, I 100% believe this. I was going to say it even before we got Mion's reaction. I'm like, yeah, I don't think anyone... I don't believe anyone knew. Or, I don't want to say anyone because there's a chance, right? But, like, I don't think the Sonozaki family knew, or at the very, very least, Mion didn't know that anyone broke into that storehouse. And the only reason it got out that anyone got into the storehouse at this point is because Shion gives it away at this point.
ありゃ、
Didn't you know?
知ってるとばかり。
I thought you already knew.
そんなことをしたらバカ、当然だよ。
If they really did that, then it was truly stupid of them. Of course something would happen to them. Mion muttered bitterly while shaking her head repeatedly. Mion's reaction made me realize the true meaning of the forbidden storehouse for ritual implements. The ritual storehouse is a sacred building, so nobody can go inside. The curse will fall upon any who disobey. Any child would know that rule. However, just because they knew about it didn't mean that they all believed in it. Although they were told they would be cursed, most of the kids actually enjoyed hearing the stories. They simply didn't believe it was true. However, Mion's reaction told me it absolutely was. If they actually did that, of course something would happen to them. She was saying that if someone snuck into the ritual storehouse, that person should be killed.
私がこっちに帰ってきて以降、たまにミヨンとは認識が食い違いますね。
What you know and what I know aren't matching up anymore.
そりゃ私だって西宮殿が迂闊に入っちゃやばいとこだってのは知ってますけど、
Of course I'm aware I shouldn't just waltz into the storehouse.
あんな死に方しても当然だってほどやばいとは思わないんだけど、
But to be killed in such a gruesome way for doing it?
私たちだってその程度の認識じゃなかったでしたっけ？
I never knew that. Did you?
それはシオンがよく知らないだけだよ。
That's just because you're ignorant about it, Shion.
すみませんね、よく知らなくて。
Well, sorry for being ignorant.
説明をいただいてもよろしいですか？
Could you please explain it to me?
そりゃシオンの言う通り、子供の世界ではやばいとかたたりがあるとか言ったって、
Just like you said, the kids don't really believe in the curse.
どうせ迷信に過ぎないだろう。でも大人にバレたらかなり怒られるんだろうなって程度の認識だと思う。
They assume it's just superstition, but they also know that if an adult found out, they'd be in big trouble.
でもね、ひなみ沢の古老たちにとってはそんな甘いものじゃないの。
But to the elderly people of Hinamizawa, it's something more serious. Mion explained to me how the elderly people blindly believed in Oishiro-sama, and how scared the festivals are to them. How scared the festivals are. Yeah, okay. It's probably something younger generations would never understand, but they're possessed by a very strong, deeply rooted devotion toward Oishiro-sama. Mion then wanted to tell me about how sinful it was to violate the rule of the ritual storehouse. I just couldn't believe things like that were still going on, even in the modern day. I couldn't even reply appropriately, but even if it was unbelievable, I couldn't ignore what I was hearing from my twin sister.
なるほどね。
I see.
でもさ、ミオン。
But Mion,
たたりで一人が死んだら、それを相殺する意味で一人を生贄にするのがルールじゃなかったっけ？
doesn't the rule say that one victim gets killed by the curse and another has to become a sacrifice?
生贄の死体は出ない。
The body of the sacrifice is never to be found.
なのに今回は二人とも死体が出ちゃってるんだけど。
But there are 2 dead bodies this time. And this is interesting because something I talked about in the last stream, where I was really questioning what was Takano's goal of talking about the curse and really hyping up the curse basically to kids. And so we're kind of seeing here Shion, everything she knows about the curse is pretty much what she was told, I think, right, from Takano. So she's kind of just regurgitating it. So here when she's like, but isn't the rule like this, and isn't it happen like this, and doesn't it happen, and then Mion's like, let's see, but there are 2 dead bodies this time.
そのあたりはどう見る？
What do you think of that? Mion doesn't know that besides Takano-san and Toмотake-san, Kechi and I also snuck into the ritual storehouse. So I tried to lead her a little.
確かにおかしいね。
I know. That doesn't make sense.
高野さんの焼死体は見つかっちゃいけなかったってことなのかな。
Maybe Takano-san's burned body wasn't supposed to be found.
本当は高野さんは失踪ってことになるのがパーフェクトだったのかな。
Maybe the intention was for her to vanish.
あるいは
Or...
自信はないけど。
I'm not too sure, but...
何？
What?
根拠なんかいらないから言ってみてよ。怒らないから。
Just say what you're thinking. I won't get mad. Mion hesitated a little first and then started to speak.
西宮殿に忍び込んだのは実は4人とか。
Actually, 4 people snuck into the shrine storage, so maybe...
それで？
Maybe what?
で、もう2人は生贄ってことで鬼隠しになってるんじゃないかな。
Maybe the other 2 will become the sacrifices and get demoned away. Maybe. Mion's words were stuck in my head. If those 2 dead bodies were the result of the curse, then there should be 2 sacrifices to calm Oishiro-sama's anger. The 4 of us snuck into the shrine storage together. It was a simple equation. Did that mean that Kechi and I were in danger? I got drunk, fell asleep, and decided to stay overnight. Was that because of the alcohol? Or did someone put a drug in my drink? It's not like me to get drunk and spend the night at the hag's house. I wanted to forget about what happened in that eerie storehouse, so I drank too much. But it really was strange for me to get that drunk. Maybe it was a good thing I woke up in the middle of the night. I could have been the one to wake up in a cell. Sometimes it's hard to recognize danger when you avoid it accidentally. Part of me wanted to just laugh at the idea, but another part felt frightened that I was so close to being in Mion's position. If my thinking was correct, I wonder how Kechimaibara was doing right now. I didn't see him in any of the cells. That didn't guarantee his safety. Takano-san and Toмотake-san had been executed. There was a possibility that Kechi could already be dead. But just like what happened to Sachi-kun, might only happen after a few days. When the sun rose, I was going to pretend to be Mion and head to her school. I was going to check if Ketchimaiburo was safe. If he had already disappeared, the enemy would come after me next. I'd have to be a decoy for myself. But if he was still safe, I'd need to keep my eyes on him. I was sure the enemy would come after that scatterbrain. Wait. I was sure the enemy would come after that scatterbrain. Okay. If I became Mion, Shion would disappear. The enemy would think Shion had already been demoned away, and they'd concentrate on Ketchi. If nothing happened to Ketchi, that would also be fine. I'd prove that nothing would happen to me either. The hag was still sleeping in the wheelchair. I was going to interrogate her, but actually, I wasn't expecting to learn that much. The woman who was also known as Empress Sonozaki probably wouldn't say a thing even if her fingers were cut off. Mion, her successor, was the complete opposite. She spoke readily but didn't know too much about anything. Mion had said she was only a messenger, and that someone else was taking care of problems on the underside. It was possible Mion had grown to be a good liar, and that she tried to deceive me with a straight face. But at the same time, I could see the hag not letting Mion get involved in the underside of the village. If I were her, I wouldn't have used Mion for that either. Unlike me, Mion was a nice person. While there were only ones and zeros in the world, she believed that there were numbers with decimal points. In other words, she could never be cruel. If the hag thought the same way as I do, it was very possible. The one who took care of problems on the underside, X, was the one who actually governed the curse of Oyashiro-sama. If the hag became concerned about something, X would deal with it, either directly or indirectly. Or maybe the hag and X would discuss the details first. But did X really exist? If he did, his place in the village hierarchy was a lot more important than that of the successor. Unlike Mion, who was too nice, he was discreet, cruel, and cunning. Furthermore, he was extremely close to the hag. Someone who would have a lot of contact with her just before it was time for the curse. Because of the way Tomotaki-san died, could be someone who regularly dealt with unusual drugs. Could be a member of a medical institution. The director of the Irie clinic. Irie? In this isolated village, Irie was famous for opening such a beautiful clinic, and for working so hard for the villagers' sake. The villagers liked his mature personality, and really respected him. There's nothing scarier than a doctor who's also a murderer. If Irie was the person behind the curse, all the mysterious deaths could be explained. However, there was only a slim chance of Irie being X. The main reason being that the hag wouldn't trust him. Like many of the elderly, the hag doesn't like young people. I knew she'd never trust him because of his age. Furthermore, she had openly criticized his behavior among the relatives once. Although Irie was famous, he was an outsider after all. He wasn't born here. He tried to maintain a good relationship with the villagers as a director of the clinic, but that was just on the surface. I couldn't even imagine the hag telling him about his worries, her worries, or about the village's underside. If she was as suspicious of others as I was, then she'd only gather trustworthy people to deal with that underside. The first people that came to my mind were the leaders of the three families. Leaving Rika-chama out, the head of the Kimiyoshi family was a strong possibility. He was the only one who could advise Empress Sonozaki. They were of a similar age, and everyone knew that they were very close outside the family councils. Furthermore, as the mayor, he often went to the Sonozaki house just before Wada Nagashi to discuss festival preparations. I could easily picture them talking privately. The one who executed the curse of Oyashiro-sama. The one who murdered Takano-san and Tomotage-san. The mastermind behind the series of the mysterious deaths that had been going for the past 5 years. Was he coming after me? Did he get to Satoshi-kun? When I thought about Satoshi-kun, I felt elevated. I was fearful of possibly being this year's victim until just a moment ago. I was scared that X was after me. But when I thought about it, I realized. Whoever it was, this person had gotten Satoshi-kun. I looked so hard, but I couldn't find him. I'd almost forgotten about this enemy. For better or for worse, he was going to appear before me again. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't find that enemy. But now, he was trying to find me. That was it. I wasn't only being chased, I was chasing too. When I realized all this, I was no longer afraid of dying to the 5th year's curse. It had become a game. I was only being threatened. I was threatening too. Now was the time to settle the score for Satoshi-kun. Now was the time to awaken passions that had grown weak over the past year. I could feel righteous indignation and courage flare up within me. The only emotion that can defeat fear is anger. When my anger completely overtook my fear, I felt as if I were reborn.
鬼ババ様、そろそろ目を覚ましてくださいません?
Why don't you wake up, Empress of Hags? I kicked her wheelchair rather violently. Jeez, but that didn't wake her up either.
ひょっとして眠ったふりをしてやり過ごそうとか考えてません?
Are you just pretending to be asleep? I grabbed her hair and pulled her head up. But even then, the hag still stayed silent with a straight face. Then I noticed something. I looked for an appropriate torture device. They were all large scale, none of them being particularly handy. That's when I saw a cigarette lighter on a cushion in the tatami room. One of the relatives must have left it there. I lit the lighter. A huge flame appeared. I turned the lighter off and went back to the hag with it.
見えてます?
Can you see it?
見えてない.
Can't you see it?
これ誰の忘れ物かわかりませんけどね。ライターです。
This is a cigarette lighter somebody left behind. I lit it in front of her eyes.
今からこれであなたの鼻を焼きます。
I'm going to burn your nose now.
嫌でしょ?
You don't want that, do you?
私も嫌です。
I wouldn't want it.
ですから寝たふりをやめてください。
So why don't you quit pretending to be asleep? There was still no response. I put the flame right under her nose without hesitation. The tip of the flame touched the tip of her nose. The flame must have burned her nose hair. It smelled terrible. I was already certain, but I continued anyway. I brought the flame closer to her eye. Her eyelid didn't move one bit. The flame burned her eyelashes, making it smell awful again. I turned the lighter off and then felt her throat and wrist. I didn't feel any warmth. I didn't feel a pulse either.
こいつスタンガンで死んだ?
Did she die from the stun gun? There was no way she could pretend to be asleep while being burned, even if she could endure the pain. Anyone would reflexively move their eyelids if a flame came close to their eyes. But she didn't. I turned the sink water on and aimed the end of the hose at the hag's face. The water pressure wasn't too high, but by squeezing the tip of the hose, I could make it squirt out. The water hit the hag in the face, but there was still no reaction. Shit. You've got to be kidding me. She's dead. The one who was at the center of everything is dead now. I knew she wouldn't talk, but I didn't expect her to end up dead. I never even thought of killing her. I walked around the room restlessly. I didn't feel guilty, but instead felt frustrated with what I'd done. Come on. I need to calm down. What do I need to be afraid of? Calm down and stay cool. Calm down, stay cool. I would feel my brain starting to calm down, and my emotions cooling down with it. She was my true enemy. It was just that I killed her before confronting her about it. Sooner or later, I would have killed her anyway. She wouldn't have said anything in the first place, so there really wasn't a reason why I should have let her live. I didn't realize that until now, and that was why I got frustrated. My revenge for Satoshi-kun started with the unexpected death of my grandmother. It was such a strange feeling, like I was wearing sopping wet clothes. I replaced that feeling with anger. I couldn't forgive her. I couldn't forgive the hag for abusing the Hojo family, including Satoshi-kun, for so many years. She cornered him psychologically as well as physically. She didn't deserve any easy death from a stun gun. I picked up a whip that was hanging on the wall. The whip was designed to make sure the person on the receiving end got seriously injured. I swung it up and then down. The sound reminded me of when I was a child hitting things with a jump rope I pretended was a whip. But unlike then, I made a purple mark on the hag's face, and reddish-black blood started oozing out. I swung it up and then down again. This time, the whip hits her in the head. Her hair flew in the air. I saw a bunch of her hair on the tip of the whip. At the end of the bunch of hair, there was a piece of her skin. Oh my god. It seemed the whip had ripped part of her scalp off. I continued to hit her with the whip. I didn't bother removing the hair beforehand. The tip of the whip was divided into many points, with each point having a fish hook on the end. It's disturbing, dude. Those hooks, added to the speed of the whip, not only scratched the victim, but tore the skin as well. The hag's hair was all messed up and her face was getting bloody. She started to look like a real demon. I stopped the whipping. Shion is fucked up in the head. She is whipping basically family. True, she hates her. But family blood. And whipping her and abusing this old woman who's already dead, that she already killed. I stopped the whipping. Not because my arm was tired, but because I couldn't stand the feeling of her hair on the tip touching me every time I swung the whip. I threw the whip at the hag. Breathing heavily, I realized I was covered in her hair. It almost felt like thousands of maggots crawling all over me. I brushed it off violently. You deserve this. You fucking demon hag. I put my hands on my knees and exhaled roughly. It was then that I noticed it. I perked up and turned around. There it is. The person who had been watching me since I snuck into the shrine storage. I sensed this person sitting in the tatami room. He enjoyed watching me torture my grandmother. An overwhelming emotion started to swallow me up. I tried desperately not to feel it. How long have you been there? You should have said something. It was just there. Just like Sachi-kun, it was just there. It was extremely uncomfortable to have it just be there. I see. Rina told me. Are you Oyashiro-sama? I smiled boldly. And yet, I could feel my body shivering. You can't fool me. Are you saying that you're Oyashiro-sama? And that the curse of Oyashiro-sama really does exist? Come on! Who would believe something like that? Huh? It was just my imagination. It couldn't be the curse of Oyashiro-sama. The curse couldn't be real. Everything was done by humans. They made everything look like it was a curse. Well, I don't care if you saw what I did. I won't change you for it. Or I won't charge you for it. But if you're thinking about interfering, I won't hold back, you know. No matter what I said, nothing happened. It was like trying to communicate with an insect. I felt like I was staring at a spider in the middle of its web, and the spider was staring back. I turned to the hag in the wheelchair. I couldn't leave her body here forever. If I don't need to make her death known, then it should be quick. It's best if a body doesn't exist. Not even in this secret underground torture room. Oof. Exhaled to try to calm myself down. Oh? I remember now. When I was a little girl. Kasai used to love making me feel scared. He often told me these scary stories about various horrible things. I recalled a story about the secret torture room of the Sonozaki family. According to the story, there was a well in the torture room for dumping bodies in. There was a pile of tortured corpses at the bottom of the well, and resentful moans could be heard echoing from there. And about halfway down the well, there was a different tunnel, which was a secret passage leading into the distant mountains. That bit was from Mion's telling of the story. It was probably an amalgamation of tellings from different relatives. The room was supposed to be a huge secret, but everyone got loose lips at the chance to have some fun, or to have fun scaring the young successor. Mion? Do you remember one of our relatives talking about a hidden well a long time ago? There's supposed to be a hidden well somewhere in this underground torture room, and it's connected to a secret passage. Did you hear some noise earlier?
鬼ババを鞭で叩く音。
That was me whipping the hag. Mion didn't reply, but I saw her bite her lip.
大丈夫。
Don't worry.
あんたは叩かない。
I won't whip you.
でもね、あんたが不愉快だと鬼ババをもっと叩くかもしれない。
But if you don't cooperate, I might punish her some more.
今度は鞭なんかじゃなくて。
Next time I won't use a whip.
そこの奥。
Down at the end.
暗がりにも牢屋があるでしょう。
Do you see a cell in the darkness?
その中。
It's in there. Mion pointed weakly. I walked down to where her finger indicated. A light bulb lit up the cell. It was a lot smaller than the one Mion was in. It was very shallow, and I didn't even need to open the door to see how tiny it was. Of course, there's no well in there. I became angry, assuming that she lied to me, but after considering it, I didn't actually think she would at this point. I opened the door and walked in. I noticed something immediately. There's an opening right in the middle of the cell. This opening was naturally disguised. The way the rocks and the shadows were positioned perfectly hid the well. The tip of a rock inside the cell concealed the entrance. Unless you went in, you'd never noticed. But it was such a shallow cell that nobody would ever think of going in. Besides, the bars allow you to see the inside well enough. The cell is not even a few meters deep, so it would only take a glance to see everything. Nobody would think of unlocking the door and walking in. But walking in was the only way anyone could find the well. Furthermore, there were many cells in this huge cave. Who would think that one of them was hiding a secret well? The inside of the well was dark. Couldn't see anything. But every little noise I made produced echoes. I could tell this was a very deep well. I brought a flashlight from the torture room and shone it down the well. It almost looked more like a vertical tunnel. Obviously a man-made one at that. There were edges on the wall like a ladder, and it looked as if they were inviting me to descend. It's kind of ironic that the secret escape route from an underground torture room ended up being a well that takes you even further down. You had no way of knowing whether it would take you to freedom or to hell. Furthermore, there were the tortured bodies of past victims at the bottom, who would be able to go down this well without hesitation. Nobody in their right mind could go down this well to look for a secret tunnel, hearing the voices of the dead all the while.
ミオンはあの井戸降りたことあるの？
Have you ever gone down that well, Mion?
降りたくもない。
I've never even wanted to.
それに関しては著しく同感。
I feel the same way.
この拷問室の犠牲者たちが放り込まれた井戸になんか好き好んで降りたくはないもんね。
Why would I go down the well where they tossed the victims of this torture room? I went back to the torture room and then returned to the cave, pushing the wheelchair containing the hag. Mion screamed.
シオン、
Shion,
バッチャを落とすけ？
Shion, are you going to push Granny down the well?
落とすんじゃないよ。捨てるんだよ。
No, I'm not. I'm just dumping her body.
もう死んでるしね。
She's dead.
さっきの拷問で死んだんじゃないよ。
Rest assured, I didn't torture her to death.
多分鬼ババはスタンガンで死んだんだよ。
It was probably a stun gun.
心臓麻痺とかで。
Maybe her heart failed.
放置してもいいけど、虫が湧くと嫌でしょ？
I could just leave her body here, but I don't want it to rot, you know?
ひどい。
How could you?
なんなら死後の鬼ババの世話もする？
Hey, do you want to take care of her even now that she's dead?
湧いてくるウジを箸でつまんで捨てるとかやってみる？
Maybe you can use chopsticks to pick maggots off her body. Huh? Mion covered her ears and shook her head. Everything I said seemed to bother Mion. Her own life wasn't guaranteed at this point.
シオン、どうしてこんなことを？
Shion, why? Why did you do this?
さーて、
Let's see.
どうしてだと思います？
What do you think? Nobody said anything for a while, but the silence was soon broken.
サトシ、
Satoshi,
敵討ちってこと？
is this revenge?
敵討ちになったかもわからないけどね。
I don't know if it was really revenge.
いきなり後ろからバチンだったから、何が何やらわかんないうちにご臨終だったろうし。
Since it happened so quickly, I'm sure she died without even feeling a thing.
ねえミオン、
Hey, Mion.
今こうして思い返すと、 私はやっぱりばあさんを殺すだけの理由があったように思うの。
Now that I think about it, I did have a reason to kill Grandma.
なぜかわかる？
Do you know what it was?
単にサトシ君を殺した張本人だからってだけじゃないよ。
It wasn't just because she killed Satoshi-kun.
それは嘘をついたから。
It's because she lied. I slapped the hag's head.
あんたも言ったよね。
You said it too.
私が爪を剥がせば全て許すって。
You told me that if I ripped out my nails, she would forgive everyone.
だから私は爪を剥がしたんだよ。3枚も。
That's why I ripped out 3 of my nails.
それでけじめがついたってことになったんだよね。
I told you what I did what you told me to, right?
でも約束は守られなかった。
She didn't keep her promise.
サトシ君はやっぱり消されてしまった。
She made Satoshi-kun disappear.
どうして？
Why?
どういうことなの？
What was that for? I continued to slap the hag's head. Her blood was all over my hand by then, and it felt gross. I tried to wipe it off on her clothes, but then her hair got on my hand. Ugh. I ran to the sink in the torture room and washed my hands with a brush. When I was done, I went back to Mion's cell.
あの時、サトシ君がいなくなってしまった後、
After Satoshi-kun disappeared,
あんたが来て言ったよね。
you came over and told me.
サトシ君と私の関係はけじめがもうついてたって。
You said the relationship between me and Satoshi-kun was forgiven.
そしてこうも言ったよね。
You also said
サトシ君の失踪の理由は、園崎本家は何も知らないと。
that the Sonozaki main house had nothing to do with Satoshi-kun's disappearance. Yeah, You lied! Lied. 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 My shouts echoed throughout the cave. I was breathing heavily. I felt like I used up all the air in my lungs.
あんたが何も知らないのは本当だと思う。
I believe you don't know anything.
あんた自身、ばあさんに真の意味で信頼を得ていたかは怪しいからね。
You aren't even sure if the old lady actually trusted you.
でも、ばあさんが本当に私のけじめでサトシ君を許したかはわからないよ。
But I don't know if she forgave Satoshi-kun because of what I did.
アマちゃんのあんたに本当のところを打ち明けるわけもない。
She wouldn't have told you the truth. The hag didn't keep her promise. She said she'd forgive everyone, but she lied. She didn't forgive. Did I read the whole... But I don't know if she forgave Satoshi-kun because of what I did. She wouldn't have told you the truth. Yeah. She said she'd forgive everyone, but she lied. She didn't forgive. She didn't forgive Satoshi-kun.
嘘つき、嘘つき、嘘つき、嘘つき、嘘つき、嘘つき。
Liar, 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 liar!
かの、
Damn it!
かの、
Damn it!
返してサトシ君。
Give me back Satoshi-kun!
返してよサトシ君。
I want him back!
返して返して返して返して。
I want him, I want him, I want him, I want him! I kicked the hag's leg repeatedly. Each time I kicked, the wheelchair made a squeaky noise. I ran out of breath and kneeled down. Mian was still covering her ears. It was now shaking. There were tears in her eyes.
怖がらせちゃったね。
Sorry to scare you.
ごめんごめん。
Sorry about that.
ミオンがミオンの言うように何も知らなかったならミオンはいじめないからね。
If you really don't know, I won't torment you.
安心して。
Don't worry.
でももしミオンも嘘をついていたなら仕方ない。
But if you were ever lying to me,
その時はどういう目に遭わされても仕方ない。
well, you'll have to accept whatever comes your way.
仕方ないよね。
You know what I mean? Hard. Damn. Shion means serious business. She snapped. She has snapped. She has snapped, and it's hard to say if she's 100% justified, right? Because... I mean, the answer is probably like... No, it's not justified. But at the very the very least, Shion is operating on, like, assumptions, right? assumptions that she's in the right, that she knows that she's being lied to, that she's being fed lies, she's just getting lip service. Page 183. I wasn't planning to kill the hag so quickly. I was going to kill her anyway, but it was too soon. People would normally assume that the Sonozaki family operates as a hierarchy, but that's not true. It's actually more like a system of government. Several ministries stem from the main family, and each forms a hierarchy of its own. These ministries don't communicate with one another. The people who belong to a given ministry don't know what other ministries are doing. That way, Sonozaki family's dealings are kept perfectly secret. Of course, the most important people in the family govern several ministries. They know, of course, about their own ministries, and they know a little bit about the ministries their relatives run. But none of them know everything. There are ministries that work in the open, there are ministries that work unseen, and there are some smaller ones that Ori runs herself. Mion seems to know about most of them, but she doesn't necessarily know them all. In fact, she didn't know about the curse. Considering that, the fact that the hag died before I could interrogate her is a huge loss. The head of the Kimiyoshi family was the one who called the main house most often after the 5th year's curse. My father called the second most. My parents are still high in the hierarchy, but the stir caused by my mother's disownment still hung over us, so we got treated as outcasts. So the fact that my father received so many calls proved how much the hag valued us, despite the distance at which we were kept, demonstrating her own two-faced respect for both sides of the coin. My father seems to be in charge of the intelligence bureau. He reported police information, gossip, and rumors going around in the Yakuza business to the hag. He silences, stirs, and distorts that information at her request. He's an information broker. By the way, my servant Kasai is an old friend of my father's. That must be why Kasai knows many things. But I don't know if my father is involved in the curse's execution. My assumption is that although he gathered information on the police investigation about the case, he wasn't involved in the execution itself. The fact that my father and the hag have this close connection isn't widely known. People know that she uses his information network, but they don't look very far beyond that. In the same way, it's possible that a curse execution team exists under the hag's direct control. People just aren't aware of it. Alright. Good stuff. I'm going to throw up a BRB really quick, and we will get the next section going. Give me about 5 minutes at most here, and we will be right back here. You want this one? You want this one? Okay, I'll be right back. I'm rushing back. I'm rushing back to my chair. All right. So we're back to read a second section. Shion means business. Shion is not fucking around. She's doing the thing. She's on a warpath. She's going. She might go all the way. I was having such a happy dream. Sachi-kun was in the dream. He was leading his normal everyday life. Look how happy he is. Look at this happy boy. He was back on the baseball team. Irie and I acted normally around him because we knew that's how mature people should act. We welcomed him back as if he had been here with us the whole time. Although he hits well in practice sessions, he still doesn't do well in a real game. Come on, Sachi-kun. 3 strikes already? I'm cheering for you. Then Sachi-kun pouted as he mumbled. I felt tears pouring down my face. Oh, sniffle, sniffle.
Satoshi-kun. Satoshi-kun.
Satoshi-kun? Satoshi-kun? Something tells me Shion is sad and upset. The happy dream faded out with my sobs. The harder I tried to focus on it, the faster it faded. Soon it was all gone. I could see the bright morning sun through a crack in the curtains. I was in Mion's room at the Sonozaki house. When did I come back? I was crouching in the corner of the room and crying. A dream's a dream. Let me see this. I was in Mion's room. Yeah, when did I come back? Okay. I wished I hadn't woken up. But one must wake up from a dream. We live in a world where there are no dreams. That's why we always wake up. But I wasn't sure if I was the only one dreaming that dream. Because I felt like Sachi-kun was right beside me.
Satoshi-kun?
Sachi-kun?
帰ってきてくれたんだ。
Did you come back? There was no reply. That was the rule. If it was Sachi-kun, I wish it would smile at me just once. But Sachi-kun's presence faded away, as if he were never there to begin with. I heard the phone ring by the front door. Ah, that's right. I was only one in the one in the house now. I had to answer it. No, you don't. Don't answer the phone. Well, I mean, she can play it off as if she's Mion. My bad. For a second, I lost the plot. For a second, I was like, wait, but don't answer the phone. I got up to walk to the front door. I felt unsteady, so I put my hand on the wall to support myself. I hardly got any sleep. It was like I had a bad cold. The phone continued to ring. I probably didn't have to answer it, actually. Sorry, one sec. Okay, just want to make sure. Okay, but I was still half asleep, and all I could think of was answering the phone.
はい、Sonozaki です。
Hello? Sonozaki residence.
朝早くにすみませんな。君吉でございます。
Sorry to call you so early. It's Kimiyoshi.
おばあちゃんまだお休みですかな？
Is your grandma still sleeping? It was Uncle Kimiyoshi.
はい、
She is, yes.
昨日のが答えたみたいです。
I guess she's still tired from yesterday.
しばらく寝かせておこうと思います。
I think I'll let her sleep in.
そうだね。無理に起こしちゃ悪いな。
Yeah, you probably should.
ミオンちゃんもこれから学校だよね。
Mion-chan, you're going to school, right?
じゃあ枕元に伝言を置いといてもらってもいいかな。
Can I leave a message with you?
わかりました。
Sure.
なんと伝言しましょう。
What is it?
ね。
Let's see.
昨日の件で緊急に役員会を開くことになったんだけど、それをね、今日の夕方の5時から神社の集会所でって伝えてもらえる？
There will be an emergency meeting regarding the incident from yesterday. It'll be at the Shrine's Assembly Hall starting at 5 p.m. Did you get that?
わかりました。
Man, this is too much information for Shion. Shion has too much power right now. She is on too much of a power trip. Oh man. Alright. Yes.
伝えておきます。
I'll give her the message. Oh Jesus, phone ringing again. As soon as I put the phone down, it rang again.
はい、園崎です。
Hello? Sonozaki Residence.
早朝から申し訳ありません。
Good morning. Sorry to call you so early.
葛西と申しますが、ミオンさんですか？
This is Kasai. Is this Mion-san?
おはようございます。
Good morning.
葛西さんですか？
Kasai-san.
おはようございます。
Good morning.
シオンさんはまだそちらにいらっしゃいますか？
Is Shion-san still there? I wasn't panicked, but I hesitated. I could tell him no. Or I could play both Mion and Shion.
シオンはさっき顔を洗ってました。
Shion was washing her face just now.
呼んできますね。
I'll get her for you. God, this is so like her playing both roles is such like a movie trope like thing for twins to act as both, you know, for like a thing. It's such like I don't mean it in the negative connotation, but such a goofy like tropey thing. Like, oh, yeah, let me go put her on the phone. She was in the bathroom. Puts the phone up to like her chest for like 10 seconds and comes back. Oh, it's the other twin. I mean, I don't know what else she's supposed to do. She's in too deep at this point, so she has to do it, but... Shion was washing her face just now. I'll get her for you. I decided to play two parts. I went back and forth down the hallway and picked up the phone again.
葛西？
Kasai!
おはようです。
Morning!
おはようございます、シオンさん。
Good morning, Shion-san.
今日は登校されますか？
Are you going to school today?
するわけないです。
Of course not.
たるいし。
I feel miserable.
まあそんなとこだとは。
I kind of expected that.
それでシオンさん、沖宮へ帰る足はありますか？
By the way, how are you getting back to Okinomiya?
若いのに迎えに行かせますが。
I can have someone come pick you up.
君吉のおじいちゃんとかそのあたりに送ってもらおうかなと思ってます。
I think I can get a ride from Uncle Kimyoshi or somebody else.
私のことは放っておいてくれて OK です。
Don't worry, I'll figure something out.
親父さんから出席日数だけは守らせるように厳命を受けていますので。
Your father told me to make sure you go to school often enough. Your father told me to make sure you go to school often enough.
私の小指のためにもご協力をいただきたいもんです。
I'd appreciate your cooperation.
まあ気が向いたら努力します。
I'll go when I feel like it.
それより葛西、
By the way, Kasai,
聞いてる？
did you hear?
聞いてるとは？
What about?
昨日のあれ。
You know, the incident from last night?
一応は。
Yes, I have.
恐ろしい話です。
How truly horrifying.
これまでのタタリの犠牲者はさ、みんなダム戦争の時の戦犯だったわけじゃない？
All the past victims were war criminals from the dam conflict, right?
それが今年はちょいと路線が違う感じですよね。
But it's different this year.
どう思う？
What do you think about that?
さあ、
Hmm.
私の預かり知るところの話ではありません。
I don't really know. Kasai wasn't the type to talk too much. If it was about something complicated, he usually responded like that.
夕べの犠牲者の2人がどうしてお社様のタタリを受けたか知ってる？
Do you know why those two fell under the curse of Oishiro-sama?
いいえ、
No.
実は夕べちょっと聞いた話だと、
I heard that last night.
なんか綿流しの最中に最後殿にこっそり忍び込んだらしいよ。
Supposedly, they snuck into the ritual storehouse during the festival.
鍵を針金か何かで開けて。
They used a metal wire or something to unlock the door. Kasai went silent for a moment. I held my breath while waiting to see how he responded. I expected him to say that he couldn't believe those people were chosen as victims just for sneaking into a storehouse. I expected him to say that it was just too unrealistic.
そうですか。
I see.
バカなことを。
I was stupid of them.
あ
Hmm?
まあ富武さんもそのあたりには疎いよそ者だったってことだね。
Since Tomotaki-san was an outsider, I bet he didn't know. I went along with Kasai, but I felt disturbed on the inside. Kasai didn't wonder why breaking into the ritual storehouse would justify their deaths. I'd known Kasai for a long time, which is why I knew there was a heavy meaning to what he said.
でさ、葛西、
By the way, Kasai,
実はさ、
actually,
私もなんだけど。
I did it too.
入ったんですか？
Did you go in? Yeah.
細具殿に
You went into the ritual storehouse?
シオンさんが？
Shion-san?
うん。
Yeah.
その、高野さんに一緒にどうって誘われてさ、
Takano-san invited me.
高野さんと富武さん、そして私と、ほら、前原屋敷に引っ越してきた圭一って男の子と一緒に4人で。
I kind of feel like this is an unforced error by Shion here. Why would she be... I mean, I assume she has her reasons. I almost kind of feel like she's testing Kasai a bit here. To see, obviously, she said earlier, like, she's seeing how he reacted. But man, she is deciding to leak a lot of the information herself. I feel like saying Kechi and herself went in there is more than she needed to say. Takano-san invited me, Takano-san, Tomotaki-san, and remember Kechi who just moved here recently? Him and me, to make 4 of us. I heard Kasai slightly sighing heavily. Even though he didn't say a word, I could tell he was shocked. I'd never known him to act this way before.
シオンさん、
Shion-san,
去年ああいう一件があったばっかりなんですよ。
don't you remember what happened last year?
今度はどうけじめをつけられるおつもりですか？
How do you think you can take care of this?
去年が爪3枚だったから、奮発して5枚くらい言っとく？
Last year it was 3 nails, so maybe 5 this year?
あ、ごめん。
Sorry.
でも、ふざけてるわけじゃないんだよ。
I wasn't trying to make light of the situation.
そりゃ私だってやばいとこだって認識はあったよ。
I knew I shouldn't have done it.
少しは。でもさ、そこまでやばいことなわけ？
I regret it at least a little. But is it really that terrible a thing to do?
シオンさんは仮にも園崎本家に縁ある方です。
You're related to the Sonozaki main family.
今さらそんなこと言ってまかり通ると思いますか？
Do you really think people would understand?
っていうか、だって私ずっと沖宮。
But I've been living in Okinomiya all my life.
ばあさんに嫌われて以降、ひなみ沢にはほとんど近づいてもいない。
Since the old woman hated me, I've barely been to Hinamazawa.
その上、学園に閉じ込められて過ごしてたんですよ。
Besides, I was stuck at school.
そんなの私が知るはずないじゃない。
How would I know about any of that? I heard another sigh from Kasai. That sigh told me my excuses would be useless.
シオンさん、
Shion-san,
私はあなたの味方のつもりです。
I am your ally.
極力シオンさんを信じてあげたいと思っています。
I want to support you as much as I can.
ですが、いくら私でもかばいきれないことがあります。
But there are dangers even I can't protect you from.
第一、
Besides, Ha 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 ha.
ごめん、
Sorry.
お姉が来たから切ります。
Sis is here. I've got to go.
じゃね。
See ya. Click. I interrupted Kasai and hung up. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear Kasai reject me. He, who had been my ally all my life. Shit.
参った
Damn it.
な。
I could hear the sound of the cicadas. The sound made it feel like I was being cooked on a huge frying pan, making a sizzling noise. Oh, she's feeling the heat. She's just barely starting to see she's in too deep. I couldn't help feeling remorseful. Now I knew that sneaking into the ritual storehouse wasn't a laughing matter, but I really didn't know it at the time. Sure, the door was locked, so there wasn't anyone to go in. So they didn't want anyone to go in. Then why did they change the lock? What did they say? I think it was that Rika-chama said that the previous lock was too heavy for her, so she had to change to that cheap one. That was how the talking I saw him broke in. If the heavy lock was still there, this wouldn't have happened. We've now brought in, like, just the smallest tangent here. The replacement of the lock to an easier lock for Rika to handle has been brought up now, like, at least, like, 3 or 4 times. Several times at this point. And I'm curious if that is truly just going to remain that thing, and that's, like, it's the reason why they, like, it's a truly surface level, that's the reason why they were able to easily get into the storage place. Or if there's something deeper to it. Is there another layer as to exactly why Rika did that? Was there another reason, an alternate reason as to why the lock was changed? Was Rika doing something intentionally? Was someone doing something intentionally? And I can't help, like, there's a part of me that's like, okay, if it was brought up once, then it would just be, oh, it's the reason why the 4 of them were able to get into it. You know, it would be the easiest thing. It would be like, oh, we're explaining away why such an important place where no one should be getting into was easily able to be gotten into by normies, by normal people. But now that it's been said like 3 or 4 times, it makes me think that there was like reason. A certified Rika reason, perhaps. Didn't Rika know something? Did she do something intentionally? I wonder. If the heavy lock was still there, this wouldn't have happened. I slapped my own forehead. I felt that hiccup coming. Tried to stop it. Ha. Then I took a deep breath. I had to calm down. What was the point of fussing now? I'd already passed the point of no return. There was no use thinking otherwise. The hag was already dead. Even if she wasn't, she was now at the bottom of the well. Therefore, I was already past the point where I could just cut my fingers off in apology. I felt so unstable. I'd walked on the fence around the swings at the park before, as if I was walking on a tightrope. It was fun because even if I fell, it was only a very short distance. But it wouldn't have been fun if I were up really high. At that very moment, I was in fact already on a tightrope that was on a lot higher than the fence at the park. As soon as I took a step, the rope behind me would vanish. I couldn't step back because there was nothing behind me. That was, in short, the current situation I found myself in. Just standing in one spot was all I could do. Even if I never took another step, I'd fall if I wasn't careful. If I forced myself to walk, the danger would only increase. But if I didn't move, I would fall eventually. I couldn't see what was ahead of me. There was no guarantee that I'd ever find firm ground. But if I stopped, there was only one fate waiting for me. I'd have to move onward. If staying here guaranteed death, then I'd rather try to walk, even if I'd die as a result. Even if there was a dead end ahead of me, at least I tried my hardest. In general, I try to be optimistic. I could accept my life not lasting particularly long, but I wouldn't go easily. I'd struggle as much as possible. I'd already killed the hag. For that, there could be no other punishment than death. I knew my life would end soon. In other words, I was actually already dead.
死人がなおもあがこうとしたら
God, if Shion wasn't fucking losing her mind, this would be so hardcore. And it still is kind of hardcore. You know, on one hand, it's like one of those things where like you go like you had to give it to her, and then someone comes in and says on the other hand you do not have to give it to her. And so like part of me is like, damn, she's pissed. She is a woman pissed that this person she immediately was infatuated with was yanked away from her, and she feels she was done dirty by a family that didn't love her anyway. And she was already, I talked about this earlier, but she was already in life probably feeling like she was playing with house money at that point, and that she didn't have much to lose, which was why she was totally fine with taking these kinds of risks in life. But now she feels she was done dirty by the family, and she's just, like I said, on a warpath. She is down to fuck around. A dead person has nothing to lose.
そりゃ特攻あるのみでしょ。
That means I can only go on the offensive. I clenched my fists tightly as I muttered. Even if I had to die, I couldn't die easily. This was my chance to avenge Satoshi-kun. Who did it? For what purpose and why? I was going to investigate. I was going to question. I was going to expose. Yes, I was going to settle the score. Also, this opens up, this kind of like trajectory opens up a lot. Like, I'm not necessarily saying this is the case, but it just, like, there are no limits now, I feel, to what Shion could actually do. As far as, like, that sounds funny, me saying that. But I mean, what I mean is, like, is Shion the one who ends up, like, murdering Rika somehow? Like, that's just a far-off example, like, way into the... But, like, does she go on such a warpath that she's like, I'm going to destroy the Sonozaki family, I'm going to go to the extended families, I'm going to go to the 3 families, I'm going to go kill the whole village, I'm going to set up the fucking, the fucking explosion, natural eruption thing, whatever the fuck that is. Like, it's just like, I will put no limit cap, I will put no limits on what Shion is willing and able to do now. Yes, I was going to settle a score. And I can't help but think the story, at this point, is painting it as such. I think the game wants us to wonder, okay, how far is this warpath that she's going to go on? How far can she actually go? I think the game, because we know, in theory, we don't know how or why necessarily, but we know, like, the extent of what ends up happening to the village and all the people apparently in it, right? We know the ultimate bad thing that ends up happening. So I think the game is, at this point, being like, all right, here we go. We're showing you. Shion is saying out loud, monologuing, saying she's got nothing to lose. And she's already feels like she's dead. So I feel like the game's almost kind of like saying at that point, like, now just sit back and watch and see how far she gets in her path of destruction. I'd carry out the plan I came up with yesterday. I could hide the hag's death somehow. All I'd have to say is that she hadn't been feeling well since Wada Nagashi. Could do it all while pretending to be Mion. Just in case her friends at school became suspicious, maybe I would start telling them that I hadn't been feeling well either. In fact, I did feel groggy from lack of sleep. When I became Mion, Shion would automatically disappear. I'd already told Kasai that I snuck into the shrine storage, though he'd probably end up telling people that I was demoned away due to the curse of Oyashiro-sama. Last person I have to think about was the 4th one who snuck into the ritual storehouse, Kechi Maibara. Maybe I can use him as bait to lure out the enemy. Sorry, Ki-chan, you're going to be on my bait. I felt a little bad, since I was starting to like him. Damn. This is the second instance of, Kechi being used as, like, bait for someone else's goals, you know? I felt a little bad since I was starting to like him. With all that figured out, let's go to school. I'd gone to school as Mion before, so I knew how things worked. It was almost time to leave the house. Mi-chan!
Osoi!
You're late! Oh wait, we saw this scene. And at the time we were like, oh, right? Unless I'm severely misremembering. She was out of breath, she was coming back. She says something, but this would make sense then that it's Shion running in, pretending now to be Mion. And we didn't really get much of like an explanation as to why she was like this. I think she shrugs it off, but...
待っててくれたわけ?
You waited?
先に行っちゃってもよかったのに.
You should have just gone on ahead.
あれ、ミオン。
Hey, Mion.
お前、顔が赤くないか?
Your face is red.
息も妙に荒いし。
You're breathing heavily, too.
みーちゃん、ひょっとして具合悪くない？
Mi-chan, are you not feeling well? Rina put her hand on my forehead.
レナの手、冷たいな。
Rina, your hand is pretty cold.
みーちゃん、ちょっとだけど熱あるよ。
Mi-chan, you're a little bit warm.
そんな大したことないよ。
It's no big deal.
半日もすればケロッと治っちゃうって。
Give it half a day and I'll be fit as a fiddle.
本当に大丈夫かよ。
Are you really okay?
あんまり無理するなよ。
You don't have to push yourself, you know?
あれ、
What's this?
ケイちゃん気遣ってくれるの？
Ki-chan, are you worried about me?
嬉しいな。
That's nice of you. I'd always thought he was a goofball, so I was a little surprised. I thought they would tease me, but they didn't.
無理しない方がいいと思うな。
I just think you shouldn't push yourself so hard.
先生にはお休みだって伝えとくよ。
We can tell the teacher I had to take the day off.
大丈夫大丈
I'm fine, I'm fine.
夫。風邪薬も飲んだし、
I took some medicine.
すぐに効いてくると思うから。
I think it's already working.
じゃあ行こうか。
Okay, then let's go.
くれぐれも無理するなよ。って言いながら。
Don't overdo it, but of course there's
時間
the time. What?
走らないと、間に合わない。
We need to run or we won't make it.
スリリングな朝になっちゃったね。
This morning got pretty thrilling.
鈍った体にはちょうどいいカツかもね。
Maybe it's just what I need to shake off this sluggishness.
走ろ。
Let's run. To school.
それでは委員長、号令。
Present, if you would.
起立。
Everybody stand up.
気をつけ。
At attention. I made the same mistake before. I never learned, do I?
みーちゃん、本当に大丈夫かな。
Do you think Mi-chan is doing okay?
今日は具合悪そう。
She doesn't look good.
あら、そうなんですの。
Oh, really?
それはよくありませんわね。
How unfortunate. It was a good idea to make them believe I was sick. Even if I did things differently from Mion, I had an excuse.
まあ、あれだ。
Well, you know,
女の子には体調が悪くなる日もあるってことだな。
girls have their days when they just don't feel well.
僕にはそんな日はないのですよ。
I don't have those days.
みぱ
Nipa! Mion's friends kept each other occupied and left me alone. Arika Nipa could cure me of anything. just put it out there. Kechi Maibara. He might suddenly disappear one day. Couldn't let that happen. That'd be like letting a fish take the bait and swim away while I was fast asleep with a fishing pole in my hands. I couldn't miss the moment the enemy took a bite out of Kechi. I had to be very careful. But it was impossible to keep my eyes on him 24 hours a day. Spying him at school like this wasn't good enough. Should I have him meet with Shion and let her explain that he's in danger? Maybe we could just set up a strategy together. I didn't think Kechi realized how serious a crime it was to step into the ritual storehouse. I hadn't, after all. Since last year, all the incidents that related to the curse had probably been investigated in secret. People involved with the three families would know about the incident from last night, but Kechi shouldn't know anything. If he knew where he stood now, he'd be more cautious too. That should make him aware of his surroundings, and maybe he would notice if anything odd took place. The teacher caught him sleeping, so she ordered him to go wash his face. He walked out into the hallway. Go wash your face. I was sleepy too. I had to be alert, but I couldn't clear my mind due to my lack of sleep. I decided to go home early. Since I've been pretending to be sick since morning, my request was approved. As I exited the building, I saw Kechi watching his face.
やっぱケイちゃんはこっちの流しを選んだか。
I thought you'd be out here.
表の方が気分いいもんね。
Feels better outside, huh?
あ、ミヨンか。
Mio? Yawn.
授業サボるなよな。
No cutting class now. It looked like it felt refreshing for him to wash his face with cold water. I washed my face too, but it didn't feel as good as it looked.
ミヨン、風邪の方はいいのかよ。
Mion, how is your cold doing?
眠いのは寝不足じゃなくて、風邪薬の副作用なんだろ。
You're sleepy because of the medicine, not from lack of sleep, yeah?
実は内緒なんだけど、 昨日はお祭りの後で親族の宴会に巻き込まれちゃってさ。
Actually, this is a secret, but after the festival yesterday, I got wrapped up in the party my relatives were having.
それでエンドレスに。
And, well, I had a bit. Gulp. I pretended to drink with an invisible glass.
徹夜明けかよ。
Are you hungover?
心配して損した。
How old are you? Ketchy exaggerated his reaction, but he still seemed worried.
じゃあな、俺は教室に戻るぜ。
Okay, later. I'm going back.
帰りは気をつけろよ。
Be careful on your way home.
ふらふらしてそこや用水路に落ちるなよ。
Don't wobble into a sewer or brook. Got it? Oh, hey, thank you. Thank you so much for the raid. Appreciate it. We're just reading Higurashi right now. We're in chapter 5 of Higurashi. I don't know, midway. I don't know at what point in chapter 5, so if you want to stick around for that, feel free to join. Or hang around. Whatever. Whatever the verb I'm looking for is. Catchy turned around to go back to the classroom.
あ、そうそう、ケイちゃん。
Oh, one more thing, Ki-chan. I stopped Ketchy. He, in response, turned around.
なんだ。
What's up?
変なことを聞くけど、深く考えないで答えてね。
This may sound weird, but don't think too hard about it.
そりゃ内容によりけりだな。
Well, depends on what it is.
昨日の綿流しの晩さ、
Last night, near the end of the festival,
富武さんと高野さんに会わなかった？
did you see Tomatake-san or Takano-san anywhere? I noticed Ketchy's body tense up. His reaction proved that he felt guilty about sneaking into the ritual storehouse. He was frightened that Mion Sonozaki might know about it. I guess this was enough to give him a certain impression of Mion Sonozaki.
富武さんと高野さんはわかるよね。
You know Tomatake-san and Takano-san, don't you?
ほら、ケイちゃん、お祭りの前日準備の時、シオンと一緒に4人でお話ししてたでしょ？
You remember, Ki-chan, when the four of you were talking during setup the day before? This is actually interesting because we just a little bit talked about how, like, you know, Shion, when she had Mion trapped in the cell that, you know, underground, whatever, she gave too much information, and she was talking about how, like, yeah, it was the four of us, you know, we went in there, and Mion's like, that's the first time I'm hearing about it. And I was like, oh, it's such an unforced error. And now it's back to this, where now we're seeing the reverse side since we're playing through Shion's perspective. It is very interesting to see the moments where back at the time we were like, oh, Mion knows somehow. It's not. Mion didn't know. Well, I guess until she was held captive and told by Shion. But, like, yeah. It's a small little thing where we're like, yeah. It wasn't that Mion knew that the four of them somehow snuck off. She doesn't have this omnipotent, like, knowledge of the situation that then ended up setting Ketchy down a bad path. See, this is the bad thing. Shion, whether intentional or not, makes Ketchy's paranoia rise to, like, astronomical levels. You could say Shion is the catalyst, potentially, for everything bad that happens now. All because, again, she got so infatuated with Satoshi, and then Satoshi was taken away from her, in her eyes, by the family that never loved her. Sucks to suck. Where was I? You know Tomatake-san and Takano-san, don't you? You remember, Ki-chan, when the four of you were talking during setup the day before? I could clearly see how dismayed Ketchy felt. He was trying to come up with an excuse.
さあ、どうかな。
I can't remember.
あったような、合わなかったような。
I might have seen them, or not. He was both a bad liar and a bad actor. He wasn't really that intelligent at all. A lot like Satoshi, right? Well, that would make him a suitable friend for Mion. He was just a brat, unlike Satoshi-kun. Although, when it came to lying and acting, Satoshi-kun was at about the same level. Maybe Ketchy should be credited for at least trying to tell a lie. Satoshi-kun wouldn't have even said a thing. I didn't need to be thinking about him right now.
そう。
I see.
じゃあもう一つ質問ね。
Then one more question.
同じく夕べ、
On the same night,
シオンに会わなかった？
Did you see Shion? This is a very mean question. Ketchy was perplexed as I'd expected.
それ昨日も聞いたよな。
That? Didn't you ask me that yesterday? Oh,
俺
yeah.
会ったかどうかわからないって答えたと思ったぜ。
Oh, see, this is all stuff I probably should have realized earlier. But it's, you know what? I'll give the credit to the game, the story here, where it's like we're able to see it again, just to, instead of me having to like, you know how like when I was going through Umineko, people are like, oh, you know, you should reread Umineko now that you know everything about Umineko. Now that you know everything that happened, if you reread it, it's a good second read. I'm like, there's no way in hell I'll find the time to do that. Here, we see back then, Ketchy playing through his perspective, he was like, why is she asking me this again? I already told her no, and now if she asked me a second time, I should be nervous, right? This, it's because it's two different people asking him, and the second person doesn't know the first person asked him already. Great. I think I told you that I wasn't sure if I had or not. Eh? I'd asked him that yesterday? He must have meant that Mion Sonozaki asked him that question. In other words, she asked him that after he left the storehouse and got back together with his friends. Damn you, Mion. When I asked her, she said she had no idea he went to the ritual storehouse. Shit.
そうだっけ？
Hmm? Did you?
また改めて聞いたら違う答えが返ってくるかなって思ってさ。
I guess I just thought I'd get a different answer if I asked you again.
どうして会ったかどうかをそんなに気にするんだよ。
Why are you so intent on knowing if I did or not? He was getting defensive. Ketchy couldn't hide his panic as he flared up at me.
大したことじゃないの。
It's not important.
富武さんと高野さんとシオンとケイちゃんをね、
It's just that there are some people
悪く言ってる人たちがいるの。
who are speaking poorly of Tomatake-san, Takano-san, Shion, and you, Ki-chan.
何が悪いんだかはよく聞いてないんだけどね。
I didn't really hear what they were saying, though. Ketchy was really perplexed now. This wasn't fun at all, but it could still be an interesting game.
私、ケイちゃんが悪いことをするなんて信じてないから。
I don't believe that you were doing something bad.
でも、ちょっとだけ聞いてみたかったから聞いてみたの。
I just wanted to ask a bit about it, so I did.
不愉快な思いをさせてごめんね。
Sorry for making you uncomfortable, okay? I made sure Ketchy felt a sense of crisis, then left. Sure, I made sure that I just fucked around with him just a bit. And nobody can tell us apart. We're Mion and Shion, perfect twins. We have fused to become one. Page 86, 186. Don't know the numbers. When I returned to the Sonozaki house, I saw a woman with an apron on. It was a housekeeper. Her name was Shimiko-san. The hag had a few housekeepers who took care of the chores around the house.
ミオンちゃん、本当によかった。
Oh
困
boy.
ってたんですよ。
Alright, let me try my best. Ah! Man-chan, I'm glad you're here!
ありゃ、シミコさん。何かご用で？
Hey, Shimiko-san, can I help you? Today was her turn to come out at the house. She'd arrived, but the gate was locked and she couldn't get in. She'd called, but there was no answer, so she had just been standing there, not knowing what to do.
バッチャですね。綿流しの祭りで面白くないことがあったみたいで、昨べからすごく機嫌が悪いんです。
Something must have happened to Granny at the festival. She's been in an evil mood ever since last night.
ああ、そうですか。
Ah, I see. Shimiko-san tried to remember if she had done something wrong.
別に無視してるんじゃなくて、寝込んでるだけなんです。
She isn't ignoring you. She's just sleeping.
昨べ、だいぶ遅くまでカリカリしてたから、多分まだ起きられないんじゃないでしょうか。
She was up until very late, so I bet she can't wake up yet.
知ってるでしょ？
You know how she is, right?
一度機嫌を損ねたバッチャが、どれだけの期間機嫌が悪いかを。
Once she gets into this mood, it'll take a long time for her to be happy again.
そうですね。困りましたね。
Yes, that's too bad.
しばらく顔を見せない方がいいと思います。
I think it might be better that you don't show up for a while.
シミコさんに悪気がなくても、 バッチャは何かと咎めてくるに違いありませんから。
Even if you don't mean to upset her, Granny might take it the wrong way.
こういう時は私に任せといてください。
Just let me take care of it.
そうですか。
I see. Are you sure?
それは助かりますけど。
I'm very grateful, though.
シミコさん、
She's so over the top.
申し訳ないんですけど、他のお手伝いさんにもしばらく来なくていいと伝えてもらっていいですか？
Sorry to make you do this, but could you let the other housekeepers know that they don't need to come for a while either?
バッチャの機嫌が治ったらこっそり電話しますから。
When Granny feels better, I'll give you a call.
しばらくそっとしてあげてください。
So let's just leave her alone for now. Shimiko-san bowed, then left on her bicycle. Anyone who had ever experienced Granny's wrath would understand. I headed into Mion's room, set her alarm clock for 2 p.m. and crawled into her bed. I needed to recover quickly. I had to be sharp, calm, cool-headed. School should be out by 2 p.m. Maybe I'd get in touch with Kechi. I'd have to call him. There would also be a staff meeting at the Fude Shrine Assembly Hall in the evening. All leaders of the 3 families, their relatives, and the town council members would gather at this meeting. They were all authority figures in Hinamazawa. I'd be attending in place of the hag, who was sick. I'd worry about the rest when I got there. People shouldn't notice that Mion and the hag were missing for a long time. I didn't need to worry as I had plenty of time. I checked the alarm once more. Then fell asleep as if someone switched me off. Oh, I thought she was gonna have another Satoshi dream. Hello?
園崎の妹の方です。
Ah, this is Sonozaki. Well, the younger one.
こんにちは。
Hello?
今はお時間大丈夫ですか？
Do you have time to talk right now?
シオンか。
Shion?
ミオンと同じで、今日は寝不足で寝込んでるんじゃないかと思ったぜ。
I thought you'd be sleeping in today with a hangover, same as Mion.
え？
What?
ひょっとしてお姉、早退ですか？
My sis had a hangover. Ha ha ha.
お姉らしい。
That's so like her. She's so crazy. Kechi had no idea that the Mion he saw earlier was actually me. He didn't notice when we talked in person, so there's no way he would notice on the phone. I never knew that playing 2 roles would be so much fun. To feel such enjoyment in this game of life or death. Maybe I was getting used to the situation. Or maybe my senses had gone numb.
ごめんな。
Whoops, sorry.
ちょっと親が電話待ちをしてるんで、そんなに長話はできないんだ。
My parents are waiting for an important call, so I can't talk for too long.
何の用だ？
What do you need?
お話ししたいことがあったんですけど、長電話が無理じゃ仕方ないですね。
There's something I want to talk about, but if we can't talk long, I guess that's that.
じゃあさ、会って話をしないか。
Then how about we meet in person?
ついでに図書館にも案内してもらえるとありがたい。
If you could show me where the library is too, that would be great.
図書館って駅前の私立図書館ですか？
You mean the public library near the station?
別にいいですよ。
Yes, that's fine.
バイトのついでってことで。
I go past there on my way to work anyway. We decided to meet in Okinomiya. It wasn't easy to get there from Hinamazawa, but I had to hurry. I couldn't run into Kechi as he was heading there himself. I recalled that the key to the hag's motorcycle was in her secret drawer. The hag usually got driven around for public events, but when she had her own errands, she rode her motorcycle. Kechi, I assumed, was going to ride his bicycle. I tried to get to Okinomiya before he did. Kechi arrived quite a bit later than me. Motorcycles are faster, after all. There were hardly any traffic lights to worry about on the way here either.
ミオンと違ってシオンは待ち合わせ時間を守るな。
Wow, Mion never keeps her appointments.
しみじみ。
I mean, honestly.
お姉を標準にされるといろいろと困ります。
Making my sister the standard for everything will get you in trouble.
ん？
Hmm?
少しフラフラしてないか？
You're a little unsteady.
お前も昨夜は寝不足だろ。
You didn't get much sleep last night either, did you?
隠しても無駄だぞ。
Don't try to hide it.
で、学校を早退したに違いない。
You definitely went home from school early.
残念でした。
Oh, too bad.
私はそもそも今日はずる休みしてますので。
I've been at home all day from the beginning.
私、お姉より容量いいですから。
I'm smarter than my sis after all.
おいおい、
Hey now.
学校をずる休みするの要領いいとは言わないと思うぞ。
I don't think you can call playing hooky smarter.
じゃあ先に用事を片付けます？
You should finish your errand first.
時間もそんなにないですから。
We don't have that much time.
図書館へ行くんですよね。
We're going to the library, right?
ああ、頼むよ。
Yeah, thanks.
お袋の借りてる本の返却期限が今日までらしいんで。
My mom had to return some books by today.
図書館は遠いのか？
Is the library far?
すぐ近くですよ。
No, it's right nearby. I meant it when I said we didn't have much time. I had to hurry a little. I was just going to talk to him on the phone, but I ended up coming all the way to Okinomiya. After our talk, Kechi would slowly head back to Hinamazawa on his bicycle. I'd have to rush back there while making sure I didn't run into him. Otherwise, I couldn't make it on time for the meeting. Maybe I could be a little late, but since I need to hear everything they were going to discuss, I didn't want to be. This was the Shishibone Public Library. It was sizable, filled with a collection of moldy, smelly books. But they did have air conditioning, and it was quiet. It was a perfect place for when you wanted to be alone. After Satoshi-kun disappeared last year, I came here a lot thinking about various things. This was where I first met Takano-san. I didn't want to run into her with Kechi in tow, but then I remembered that she was already dead. Or so she thinks. The first floor of the building was occupied by government offices. The library itself was on the second floor, so we had to walk up a huge staircase to get there. I tasted cool air on my skin as soon as I walked through the automated door. I can relate to this, dude. I was talking about this earlier in the stream. I was outside for most of the day today. It is so hot here in Texas. And then when I stepped inside, and I keep my apartment cold, like super cold. That's like the one of the benefits of being an adult. You get to set the temperature. I walked into an apartment. I was like, holy shit, it feels so nice. A euphoric feeling stepping into an air-conditioned apartment. Unlike outside, it was very quiet in here. The room temperature was both comfortable and suitable for books. I could smell the scent of old pages.
どこの図書館も似たようなもんだな。
All libraries smell the same. Kechi walked up to the return table after he said so. Because it was a weekday, there was hardly anyone around. It really was very quiet. I was going to chat about some ordinary things, and then move on to the main subject. After Kechi returned the books, I invited him to the inner section of the library. Kechi knew Mion well, but he didn't know me at all. He showed an interest in our life story. This was exactly where Takano-san told me about the true history of Hinamazawa a year ago. I was about to tell Kechi about things that were very similar to that. Did God have a sense of irony?
言われてみれば。
Now that you mention it,
例のおもちゃ屋も親類の人が経営してるみたいだったな。
that toy store looked like it was managed by relatives as well.
そういえば、エンジェルモートも親類の人が経営してるんじゃないのか？
Does that mean they operate Angel Mort too? I told him the reason why the Sonozaki family was so powerful in this area. I assumed that since Kechi came from the city, there was a good chance he couldn't even begin to understand how one old family could literally control an entire area. Unless I explained to him how powerful the Sonozaki family was, he wouldn't understand what kind of danger was barreling toward him.
特に金融、不動産関係は強いですね。
The family is particularly strong in finance and real estate.
あと、商工会議所の役員も何割かは園崎姓かその親類がついてます。
Even a lot of the members of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry either have the last name Sonozaki or other relatives.
沖宮一帯を評伝に市議会議員と県議会議員にも園崎がいますし、
There's Sonozakis in the city council and the prefectural assembly too, since they have the Okinomiya area giving them strong electoral support.
ちょっと待て。
Wait a minute.
なんだかすごい話になってきたぞ。
This is all escalating pretty quickly.
沖宮の町中に親類が経営する店があって、特に金融、不動産に強い。
Your relatives operate shops in downtown Okinomiya, and they're especially strong in finance and real estate?
しかもその上、商工会議所の役員の何割かが親類で、しかも地元選出の議員までいて。
On top of that, a lot of people in the Chamber of Commerce and Industry are relatives, and there are even some elected to have local offices? This is blowing his fucking mind. She's like, yes, that's what I just said. Kechi counted with his fingers. He was clearly surprised to hear all about the Sonozaki family. It seemed he was flexible enough to accept even something that sounded outrageous to him. He was starting to understand things, although slowly. The way he viewed Shion Sonozaki was changing little by little, too. That should be enough background information. Now I could go on to explain about Mion Sonozaki, the successor. Then I'd change the subject, like Takano-san did with me. I'd go on to talk about the curse of Oishiro-sama, and then the series of mysterious deaths.
ひょっとして園崎家ってこの辺り一帯じゃすごいんじゃ。
So then, the Sonozaki family, it's pretty famous in this area?
ねえ、
No, it's Oishi, of course. Yup.
すごいんです。
Crazy, isn't it? No. A fat man with a cigarette suddenly cut into our conversation. Oishi? Why was he here?
どうも、
Hello.
こんにちは。
Good afternoon.
今日はデートですかな？
Are you on a date today?
羨ましいですね。
Ah, what I would give to be young again.
そうだと思ったら邪魔しないでほしかったですね。
If you thought we were on a date, then why are you bothering us?
おいさん。
Oishi-san. What timing. It couldn't be coincidence. I knew this man too well. He was crafty, sly, and clever. His presence here just can't be a coincidence. Did he see us somewhere in town and follow us? But why? Poor Kay. Did he need something from me, Kechi, or perhaps the both of us? From what I could guess, I didn't think it was me that he wanted something from. It was almost like he was trying to keep Kechi away from me. Oishi was aware I gave false testimony to protect Sachi-kun last year. Maybe he didn't think he could talk to Kechi if I was around. Why did Oishi need to talk to Kechi? It must be about the incident from yesterday. I'm sure there were plenty of plainclothes officers at the festival, so they had to have seen who was last with the victims. We got there. In other words, Kechi and me. But Oishi knew I was hard to deal with. That was why he was focusing on Kechi at present. Why did he have to show up at a time like this?
前原さんでしたよね。
Maibara-san, right?
あなたもタフな人ですね。
You're one tough guy.
園崎姉妹を二股かけるなんて。
Two-timing the Sonozaki sisters, are you?
いやそんな二股だなんて。
No, I'm not two-timing anyone. Kechi looked at me, hoping for assistance. He blushed. The way he panicked reminded me of Sachi-kun. That aside, this wasn't going well. Oishi might even start talking about my relationship with Sachi-kun. I didn't want him to, nor did I want Kechi to have any preconceptions. Oishi took a glance at me. His eyes told me everything. He was purposely talking about the things I'd rather not talk about. He was basically telling me to leave or he'd continue on to something that was worse than what they were currently talking about. He didn't use words, but his eyes clearly communicated that anyway. Damn that big... Sorry, damn that big fat weasel.
ごめんなさい、ケイちゃん。
I'm sorry, Ki-chan.
私もうバイトの時間なんです。
I really do need to get to my job.
え
Huh?
あ、そうなのか？
Oh, you do? I realized that I wouldn't achieve anything like this, even if I stayed longer, so I used my part-time job as an excuse to leave. Oishi looked at me and grinned. Damn it. He won today, but I'll win next time.
そういえば今日はシオン何か話があるんじゃなかったのか？
Wait, didn't you have something to talk about today?
なんなら
Shion?
また今度。
Yep, I'll see you later.
バイトが終わったら電話します。
Oh, I'll give you a call after I'm done.
夜なら電話大丈夫ですよね。
It'll be okay to call at night, right?
ああ
Yeah,
大丈夫だと思う。
probably okay.
じゃあ今夜電話しますのでその時に。
Then I'll talk to you later tonight.
じゃあ。
Bye. I'm out. Deuces. The hag's motorcycle had become my primary means of transportation. My next stop was a staff meeting at the Furuya Shrine's assembly hall. It was easy to imagine how a normal meeting would play out if it were just celebrating the end of Watanagashi. But today's staff meeting was likely going to be as strained as the Sonozaki family councils. Yes, The staff meeting was going to deal with the heart of Inazawa. I couldn't let my guard down, even for a moment. I rested for a while at the house, then left for the meeting. I walked up the long stairs to the Furude Shrine. At the top, I saw some elderly men smoking in front of the hall. Since they had a minor fire a long time ago, it had been made into a non-smoking area. Is that Mion-chan? The head of the Kimiyoshi family, Uncle Kimiyoshi, noticed me and waved. He must not have expected Mion to come alone. Normally, it would have been either the hag by herself or Mion tagging along as an assistant.
バッチャは夕べのあれ以来機嫌を相当悪くしちゃいまして。
Granny's been in a terrible mood since the incident last night.
誰も近づけず布団にこもりきりです。
She's been staying in bed and won't even let me go near her. They all understood how troublesome she was when in a bad mood. They smiled bitterly in sympathy.
じゃあ今日はミオンちゃんが園崎家当主代行ということでいいね。
So you're here as a Sonozaki family representative then?
お嬢さんから話とか聞いてる？
Has Oryu-san told you anything?
一応
Sort of. What did he mean, has Oryu-san told you anything? That line by itself didn't really explain much. The staff meeting was usually led by the mayor, the head of the Kimiyoshi family. And he'd asked me, as a substitute for the Sonozaki family head, if I'd heard anything from her. I then realized who was supposed to lead today's staff meeting.
おじじゃなくて君吉さん。
No, Kimiyoshi-san.
今日の会合だけど司会私じゃないと。
Do I really have to lead the meeting today? According to the ranking order that the family councils, any substitute for the Sonozaki family head is above the Kimiyoshi family head. In other words, I'd have to lead today's meeting. There was no way I could do that.
大丈夫大丈夫。おじいちゃんがやるから。
Don't worry, I'll do it.
ミオンちゃんは座ってればいいよ。
You can just take a seat, Mion-chan.
お嬢さんから聞いてる話があったら話してくれればいいからね。
If there's something you've heard from Oryu-san, just let us know, okay?
村長、そろそろ始めますかいね。全員揃いましたね。
Kimiyoshi-san, why don't we get started? Everyone's here now. Smokers put out their cigarettes and went back into the hall. The tables were set in a horseshoe shape, and I was told to sit next to the chair reserved for the chief. The seat opposite mine was empty. Considering its location, it was probably for the Furude family head, Rika Furude. But somebody had said earlier that everybody was already here. Either Rika-chama had called in absent, or the empty seat was just a formality. Knowing the subject of this meeting, I don't think that the Furude family head would even want to attend. Even if Rika-chama had actually attended, she wouldn't be able to say anything. All she'd usually do at the Sonozaki family councils was draw pictures on a notepad. She would probably end up drawing pictures in this meeting too. Besides, they probably didn't want to hear anything unpleasant. In this way, the empty Furude family seat was easily explained. When everyone was seated, the head of the Women's Association served tea. She gave me an evil look, trying to tell me to help out. I got up and did so. After that, everyone fell quiet, and the secretary stood up.
それでは皆さん、本日は大変お忙しい中、緊急にお集まりいただきまして、誠にお疲れ様です。
Everyone, thank you for coming today on such short notice despite your busy schedules.
それでは初めに、村長さんからご挨拶をいただきます。
Let's start with a few words from the mayor.
村長、どうぞ。
Go ahead, please.
座ったままで失礼します。
Please excuse me for staying seated. I'm getting right in your face, apparently.
ケンちゃんも座ったままでいいよ。
Kenshin, you stay seated too.
今日は平日の夕方にお集まりいただきまして、誠にありがとうございました。
Thank you all for coming today.
また昨日は綿流しを本当にお疲れ様でございました。
Also, you all did a great job at Watanagashi yesterday.
おかげさまで本年も事故もなく大変な盛況のうちに終了させることができました。
The festival was a great success as usual. There weren't any mishaps.
祭りにも村中から大勢がいらっしゃり、本当に素晴らしい祭りになったものと思うとります。
Lots of villagers came, and I believe it went great, on the whole.
来たの何人だっけ？
Let me see, how many people was it?
大本営発表だと5000人だそうです。
According to the Imperial General Headquarters report, approximately 5,000 people showed up. Wahaha, ha ha ha. Everyone laughed except me.
今後もますますの文化の向上のために一丸となって頑張ってまいりたいと思います。
I hope we'll continue to work together to carry on this tradition.
よろしくお願いいたします。
I appreciate your cooperation. Clap, clap, clap. An applause with only 8 people doesn't sound so great.
それでは引き続き議事の方に入ってまいりたいと思います。
Okay, let's move on to today's proceedings.
本日の議事を君吉村長さんにお願いしようと思います。
Kimiyoshi-san will lead the meeting today.
承認していただける方は拍手でご承認願います。
Please applaud if you approve. Clap, clap, clap.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you.
それではただいま万座でのご承認をいただきましたんで、君吉村長さんに司会を譲りたいと思います。
Then, with your approval, Mayor Kimiyoshi will take over. I guess I could go full, like, radio show. I should do, like, clapping noises, but...
よろしくお願いします。
Please go ahead.
どうもケンちゃんお疲れ様。
Thank you, Ken-chan.
では司会を引き継ぎましたので、
Let's
本
start.
日の議事に入りたいと思います。
Let's start now.
申し訳ない。カーテン閉めましょうかね。
Sorry. Could you close the curtains? Everyone closed the curtains nearest to them. The sun was still up, but with all the curtains closed, the room became very dark. The village chief explained the details of the incident, as well as what went on with the police. A police vehicle discovered Tomotage-san's body on its way back to Okinomiya last night. Oishi's special curse unit was standing by, expecting something to happen for the 5th time, so they responded quickly. Since Tomotage-san and Takano-san were rarely apart, Oishi got in touch with the neighboring prefectural police departments and asked them to look for her. As a result, they found a burned body of a woman in the mountains of the Gifu prefecture. And the body was then identified as Mio Takano. Considering the circumstances, police ended up labeling the incident as the 5th of the ongoing series of mysterious deaths. When he finished, there was dead silence. I watched to see who would speak first. Nobody said a thing. Then, I noticed Kimiyoshi-san looking at me. This is where the head of the Sonozaki family would speak.
ミオンちゃん、
Mion-chan,
お嬢さんは何か言ってたかい？
has Oryu-san said anything about this whole thing? Everyone looked in my direction. I was sure they could see the hag in me.
園崎家当主代行園崎ミオンです。
I'm Mion Sonozaki, acting head of the Sonozaki family.
本日は当主お寮に代わりまして出席させていただきました。
I'm here in place of Oryu. Excuse me, Oryu, the current head.
よろしくお願いいたします。
Thank you for having me. With how often she says hag, she refers to Oryu as the hag. I was wondering if she was going to have to do that thing where she accidentally almost says hag in front of everybody. I became Mion. I tried to become as cold and unfeeling as the Mion I witnessed a year ago. That cold version of Mion was inside me. That was me. I was her.
不幸にしてお社様のお怒りは5年目にも下されることになりました。
Unfortunately, the curse of Oyashiro-sama has come to pass for the 5th time.
大変悲しいことです。
This is deeply regretful. Everyone was held captive by my words. I wasn't a little girl anymore. The hag was speaking through my mouth. They all heard me and trembled in fear.
どうして今年もたたりがあったか
Does anyone know
わかる方はいますか？
why the curse happened again this year? After my question, everyone whispered to each other.
そう、
I will tell you.
西宮殿の禁を犯し土足で聖域を踏み荒らして汚れを持ち込んだからです。
It is because they broke the rule of the ritual storehouse and desecrated the sacred ground within.
何いうこと？
How dare they? A few elderly men got up and yelled.
本当にが
The fools!
信じられん小僧どもだ。
I can't believe this!
腹渡引き裂いてもアクタリンガクトムじゃん。
They deserve to be killed.
お社様、お怒りをお鎮めください。なんなんなんなん。
Oh, Ishiro-sama, please calm your anger. Nom 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 nom. Fuck it. What was happening with him? I gotta hear that one more time. One more time.
お社様、お怒りをお鎮めください。なんなんなんなん。
That was a good line read. That's a good line read. That was good.
なんてこと、なんてこと。
Oh, I can't get over it. Sorry. Oh my. Oh my. How did that happen?
お社様、お社様。
Oh, Ishiro-sama.
これだからよそ者すっか。
This is why we hate outsiders.
なんも考えね
They just don't think.
え。ガクガクもないよ。さらんと。
They're just so stupid.
あれすってれんこってなるね。バチ当たりどもんが。
They got what they deserved. It was their own fault. The angry old men yelled even as they trembled in fear. Their sudden change scared me more than a little. Even Uncle Kimiyoshi, who was usually so gentle and sweet, became like a demon of war, cursing those who broke the rule of the ritual storehouse. It had become like a raging ocean inside the assembly hall. Their yells spun about like a whirlpool. They roared, crashed, and howled. Even while doing nothing but watch, I could feel myself turning pale. Mion threatened me yesterday, and Kasai had been shocked this morning. What I saw before me was similar to that. Even the sweet and gentle Uncle Kimiyoshi was saying they deserved to die. I was fearful of the sudden change in those elderly men. More than anything, the fact that they all believed that these people deserved to die was for trespassing is what terrified me. It wasn't just that, of course. The real thing I was scared of was that I was one of the people they wanted dead. In other words, it was almost like they were telling me to die of the curse. If they were to find out I snuck into the ritual storehouse, it was very possible that they would strangle me on the spot. Actually, they may not kill me that easily. By then, I was certain. The people in this room were true believers in Oyashiro-sama, just like the hag. They wouldn't hesitate to murder whoever made Oyashiro-sama angry on his behalf. Even if they didn't carry out the killing themselves, they would pretend they didn't see anything. Yes, not even my head was cut off. Not even if my head was cut off right in front of them. Everyone here would act in collusion and say I'd never attended today. If they all testified that they waited and I didn't show, I'd be demoned away. It would be far too easy for them to erase someone and have them disappear. There was no mistake. The people linking the hag and the curse were definitely here at this meeting. I continued speaking. I was Mion Sonozaki. I was on the side responsible for the curse. Therefore, at that moment, I didn't need to worry about anything. Nobody could tell the difference between Mion and me. That's what would keep me safe.
お静かにお願いします。
Please, be silent.
ほら、
Hey!
静かに静かに。
Quiet down! Uncle Kimiyoshi helped me to quiet everyone, but his tone was violent. He really scared me. Everyone gradually became silent.
西宮殿に忍び込んだ賊は4人。
In fact, it was 4 people who snuck into the storehouse.
あと2人います。
2 more remain. People once more became restless upon hearing that, but Uncle Kimiyoshi yelled at them again and they settled down.
富武さんと高野さんは分別のつくお年だったはずですからね。
Tomatake-san and Takano-san were old enough to be made responsible for their own poor judgment.
お社様のたたりが直ちに下りましたが、もう2人は子供です。
I accidentally hit a button. Did I hit 0? As a result, the curse of Oyashiro-sama fell upon them immediately, but the other 2 were simply children.
まだたたりは免れていますが、何のけじめもなく許されることはありません。
Now I gotta make sure. The curse has yet to fall upon them, but there will be some kind of punishment. Okay, let me make sure. I don't know what 0 does. I just want to make sure I didn't accidentally turn off, like, like do by turning off the CGs like I did. Remember the good times at the top of the series many months ago now at this point? I'm trying to see where 0 is. I don't see a thing for 0. I don't know what it is I was doing. Who can say? Not me. Oh well. I'm just gonna assume nothing bad happened. Everyone stayed quiet that time. Wait, so what it was, the curses yet to fall upon them, but there will be some kind of punishment. Great. They had all turned genuinely pale, trying not to miss a word I said. After all, they were all thinking that the kids I mentioned could be their own relatives, or even grandchildren. They wanted to know who they were, to put their minds at ease.
その二人の狼藉者は園崎シオン。
The other two who snuck into the ritual storehouse were Shion Sonosaki
そして前原圭一。
and Kechi Maibara. Now, bold strategy, because I guess there could be like a couple different ways that Shion could have played this. She, again, is going for the whole, I have nothing to lose, and I don't mind about, like, who I drag down at this point. Because she already feels like she's being dragged down and has nothing to lose. Doesn't have anything to live for, except for revenge. And who am I to question her tactics here, but, like, could she have just gone off and been like, yeah, those are the only two people in there. And she's speaking from a point of authority at this point. They think she's Mion. She could say it was just those two people. She could say it was 4 people, but 2 kids, we don't know who it was. Or that there was just theorized that it was 4 people. She could have just made up 2 people. But I assume for her, I mean, if you were to blow up your own potential spot, like there's a reason to do it, right? But I guess the other thing is she doesn't really care, unfortunately. She doesn't really, it shows that I think she doesn't really care about how Kechi, what the outcome for him is. Because Kechi is not Satoshi to her. And she doesn't even really view herself as Shion anymore. She has adopted the role of Mion, and for all intents and purposes, she is Mion. So I don't think she cares about putting the heat on her old persona. You know what I mean? So I guess when you look at it like that, it's no big deal. I could feel the air getting drier. She could feel it in the air tonight. Oh lord. It was so dry it almost felt like it was going to start making a crackling noise.
園崎シオンは
Shion Sonosaki has
すでに
already couldn't even hear the old people breathe. Took a peek at Uncle Kimiyoshi, who was sitting next to me. He'd adored Shion as if she were his own granddaughter, but she had been demoned away. I wanted to see how distressed and sad he'd look. And when I saw his face, I felt a sensation on my back as if my skin itself was making a cracking noise. He didn't even have an expression on his face. Uncle Kimiyoshi adored me. I loved him, and I thought he loved me too. That was why I expected him to be saddened after learning that I met with such a cruel fate. What was I thinking? The memory of his warm smile shattered inside me. There is no way of describing the fear I experienced in that moment. In mere words. He had suddenly changed into someone I didn't even recognize. Uncle Kimiyoshi noticed me looking at him and spoke. What about Kechi Maibara?
まだです。
Not yet. I had to take a deep breath to regain my composure.
西宮殿を犯した4人、すべてにお社様はたたりを下されるでしょう。
All 4 who snuck into the ritual storehouse will suffer the curse of Oyashiro-sama.
前原圭一も例外ではありませんよ。
Kechi Maibara is no exception. Chilling looks. Cruel looks. Emotionless looks, shrewd looks, and the looks of people who are about to snap. I could feel the demons chewing my words while they stared at me with their sharp eyes. I could see some of them sticking their snake-like tongues in and out. I could see flames in some of their eyes. They were memorizing the names of the intruder that curse had yet to fall upon. And so, the meeting went on. We were told not to tell the police too much, to report what they asked us, and to hold another meeting whenever something of significance happened. If something unexpected took place, we were to get in touch with either the head of the Kimiyoshi family or the head of the Sonozaki family for instructions on what to do. With those closing remarks, the meeting was over. It was already getting dark outside. Being in a valley surrounded by mountains, once the sun went down in Hinamazawa, it got dark quickly. Even if it was hot during the day, it would cool down quickly at night. The elderly people said goodbye to each other and left on their bicycles, on their motorcycles, or in their cars. Uncle Kimiyoshi waved them goodbye and started to head home himself. I called out to him.
Kimiyoshi-san!
Kimiyoshi-san!
この後、ご予定はありますか?
Do you have plans after this? I called him Kimiyoshi-san instead of Uncle Kimiyoshi. He stopped.
いや、何もないよ。
No, I don't have anything planned.
うちへ寄ってもらえませんか?
Can you stop by my house?
お嬢さんが呼んでるのかい?
Does Ori-san want to see me?
はい。
Yes.
直接会って話したいことがあるんだとか。
She wants to talk to you about something in person.
じゃあやるかな。
Okay, I'll stop by. Uncle Kimiyoshi arrived at the Sonozaki house. He often came out to the house to have secret meetings with the hag, so he wasn't suspicious at all. I invited Uncle Kimiyoshi into the living room. I served him a cup of tea and told him I was going to fetch the hag. I left the room and killed some time down the hallway. Oh boy.
ばっちゃ、着替えたから来るそうです。
Granny will be here after she gets dressed.
ちょっと時間かかるかもです。
She might take a little while.
いやいや。
Oh, that's okay.
ゆっくり待ってるから。
I'll just wait. Uncle Kimiyoshi relaxed as he sipped his cup of tea. I sat next to him.
多分、シオンの話じゃないかなと思います。
I think she wants to talk to you about Shion. I mentioned my name and watched for his reaction. Uncle Kimiyoshi looked so grim. I couldn't even tell if he heard me. I decided to continue speaking until he reacted in some way.
シオンは去年がありますからね。
You remember the incident from last year with Shion, yes?
北条家の人間なんかと懇意になるなんて。
She became friendly with people of the Hojo family.
去年は爪を剥いで許してもらったんだったね。
She was forgiven after ripping out her nails, wasn't she?
ええ。
Yes.
3枚剥いで。
3 nails. Uncle Kimiyoshi folded his arms and thought for a while.
シオンちゃんは今は
Where is Shion-chan now? Right in front of you, bitch. She just knocks him out.
地下にいます。
In the basement.
様子はどうなんだい?
How is she doing? Uncle Kimiyoshi sounded worried. When I heard that, I felt relieved that Uncle Kimiyoshi was on my side. His anger in the assembly hall was just an act.
ずっと泣いていますよ。
She's been crying.
ミオンちゃん。
Mion-chan.
率直なところ、お嬢さんはシオンちゃんのことをどうするって言ってるんだ?
Tell me, what is Ori-san going to do with Shion-chan?
具体的なことは聞いてません。
She hasn't told me any details.
ご存知と思いますけど、バッチャは怒りが度を超えると逆に無口になりますからね。
As you know, Granny becomes awfully quiet when she is truly furious.
西宮殿に入ったんだもんな。
Going into the ritual storehouse, huh?
しかも自分とこの身内がな。
Furthermore, it's her own granddaughter.
そりゃそうだろうな。
That's a tough decision to make. Uncle Kimiyoshi thought that the hag must be unsure of what to do with Shion.
おじいちゃんはシオンの処遇どうなると思います?
What do you think? What do you think will happen to Shion?
そりゃ爪3枚よりもっとむごいことになるだろうな。
Well, sure will be far more than just 3 nails this time.
お嬢さんのことだから 身内に甘くするってことはないと思う。
Knowing how Oryu-san is, she won't hold back just because it's her granddaughter.
むしろ身内だからこそ厳しく当たるだろうからな。
Actually, she might be even more harsh, especially because they're related.
何しろ西宮殿に入ったんですものね。
Yes, she'd go into the ritual storehouse.
それは許されないことでしょうね。
That's not something that can be forgiven so easily.
さすがにな。
Indeed.
西宮殿はな。
It's sacred, after all.
でもシオンもかわいそうかもしれません。
But in a way, maybe it's not fair to Shion.
だってずっとひなみ沢から遠ざけられてきたんです。
She has been away from Hinamizawa, as you know.
西宮殿の不可侵性は知ってはいたでしょうが、そこまでいけないことだという認識は多分なかったんでしょうから。
I'm sure she knew she wasn't supposed to trespass in the ritual storehouse, but maybe she didn't know how forbidden it was.
確かにシオンちゃんは不憫だよな。
Yeah, that's true. Poor Shion-chan.
私かシオンか。
Other than the tattoo on my back,
背中の入れ墨を見る以外に私たちをどんな方法で区別できるというのですか？
how would you tell the difference between Shion and me?
何もない。
There isn't one.
ミオンとシオンなんて区別自体が何の意味もないのに。
There's no point in distinguishing between Mion and Shion in the first place. Twins are proof of bad luck. One should be eliminated as soon as they are born. Such is the family precept. The hag actually put her hands around my neck right after I came out of the womb. That's how the story went, at least. In the end, the hag didn't kill me, but instead pretended I didn't exist. She forced herself to call one of us Mion and the other Shion. She adored Mion and hated Shion. My sister and I never understood why we had to go through that. We didn't care who was Mion or Shion. So one day, we came up with an idea. We decided to share the joy Mion experienced and the sadness Shion experienced. We often switched places. We were both Mion. At the same time, we were both Shion. Adults around us tried to put different clothes on us or style our hair differently so they could tell us apart. That was nonsense. No matter what they did to us, all we had to do was switch places and nobody could tell us apart. Finally, they decided that we switched places because we were always together. On that day, Shion got to go to an amusement park. Since then, we've been separated. Damn.
ミオンちゃん。
Mion-chan.
私にはシオンがどういう将軍になるか想像もつきません。
I can't even imagine what'll happen to Shion.
そしてどんなことに決まっても意見できる立場にありません。
Whatever it is Granny decides to do, I'm not in a position to say anything about it.
バッチャは身内であればむしろ意見を聞かない人ですし。
She doesn't listen to her relatives.
そうだな。
You're right.
お嬢さんの悪いところだよ。
That's something Oryu-san needs to work on.
シオンは園崎シオンでなければとっくに殺されていたことでしょう。
If Shion wasn't Shion Sonozaki, she would have been dead a long time ago.
死に準ずる罰が果たしてどのようなものか私には想像もつきません。
I can't even begin to imagine what kind of punishment might be equal to death.
殺されなかったにしたって多分一生日の光を見ることはできないでしょう。
Even if she isn't killed, she'll probably never see the light of day again.
つまりは鬼隠しということかと。
In other words, she'll be demoned away.
ミオンちゃん、
Mion-chan.
シオンちゃんは反省してるんだろ？
Does Shion-chan regret what she has done?
ええ。
Yes. In response, Uncle Kimiyoshi tapped my shoulder and then slapped his own chest. He smiled reliably.
大丈夫。
Don't worry.
シオンちゃんがちゃんと反省してるなら、鬼隠しなんかなるもんか。
If Shion-chan feels bad about what she has done, she won't be demoned away.
君吉のおじいちゃんに任せなさい。
Leave it to me.
本当に大丈夫なんですか？
Really?
そりゃあお嬢さんは私に意見されたら怒りはするだろうけどさ。
I'm sure Ori's-san will be furious to hear me say anything.
でもおじいちゃんは引かないよ。
But I won't give up.
シオンちゃんはしっかり反省してるんだから、許してあげてほしいってちゃんと頼んでみせるから。
I'll explain to her that Shion-chan regrets what she's done. I'll beg for forgiveness. Tears began to fall from my eyes. I knew it. Uncle Kimiyoshi was my ally after all. He said he would forgive Shion. He was my ally. I was so very happy.
本当に大丈夫でしょうか？
Are you sure?
去年の北条聡くんみたいに鬼隠しになっちゃったりしないでしょうか？
Are you sure she won't be demoned away like Satoshi Hojo-kun left from last year? Sorry, Satoshi Hojo-kun was last year? Uncle Kimiyoshi smiled reliably again and told me.
罰当たりの北条家の坊主ならいざ知れず、そのザキ家のシオンちゃんならきっと許してもらえるって。
He was a brat of the Hojo family. This is Shion-chan of the Sonozaki family we're talking about here. Of course she'll be forgiven. She's not gonna flip on him because he said called Satoshi a brat, is she? Uh-oh.
北条家の坊主って聡くんのことですか？
The timing of that could not have been. Oh my god. I felt it. That is fucking hilarious. She goes, a brat of the Hojo family? Are you talking about Satoshi-kun?
去年の犠牲者の
Last year's victim?
北条の連中は仕方ないさ。
Those Hojo people.
村を丸ごと売ろうとした売国と同然の奴らだ。
They were traders who tried to sell out the whole village.
そういう奴らなら鬼隠しだってありえるだろうけど、そりゃあ北条家だからの話だよ。
Of course he got demoned away. He was a Hojo after all. Huh? Huh? Huh?
北条家の連中は一族老とみんな呪われ
Oh
て
no.
当然だ。
The Hojo people should all be cursed.
鬼隠しに遭うのはそういう連中なんだから。
Only people like them get demoned away.
だからシオンちゃんは大丈夫。
Shion-chan will be okay.
大丈夫なんだよ。
It won't happen to someone like her.
おじいちゃん。
Uncle.
でも聡くんは去年シオンがけじめをつけたから見逃してもらえることになったんじゃないの？
Didn't Shion take care... I almost said Dion. Didn't Shion take care of that for Satoshi-kun last year? Wasn't he supposed to be forgiven?
けじめ？
Take care of that?
なんの？
What do you mean?
ほら爪を3枚剥いだじゃないですか。
Remember? 3 nails. She removed 3 of her nails.
葛西さん、吉郎おじさん、それから聡くんで3人分。
Kasai-san, Uncle Yoshiro, and then Satoshi-kun. 3 people.
3枚。
She removed 3 nails for 3 people.
え？
Eh?
3枚ってそういう意味だったのかい？
So that is why it was 3 nails, huh? Huh? What? This is, oh my god, this is
3
building.
枚はそういう意味じゃなかったんですか？
Wasn't that the significance of those 3 nails?
いや、合ってるよ。
Yeah, you're right.
関わった人間が3人だから3枚の爪でけじめとしたんだよ。
There were 3 people involved, hence the 3 nails.
そう私も聞いてるよ。
I heard that too.
でも
でも
But what?
葛西さん、吉郎さん、
Kasai-san, Yoshiro-san,
それからシオンちゃんで3枚だと聞いてたよ。
and Shion-chan. That makes 3. Oh, what? That's not... She's so gonna flip. Oh my god. Uncle Kimiyoshi's like, let me do that math one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4 minus 1, 2, 3. That's an unfortunate 4th person left off. How bad? What? Huh? What? I endured excruciating pain. The first one was my left pinky, then the ring finger, and then the middle finger. People held me down so I couldn't move. But I endured. I had to endure 3 nails. I didn't know which nail was for Sachi-kun. If my middle finger was for Sachi-kun, I'd have to endure until the middle finger was done so that Sachi-kun would be forgiven. That was why I endured. Even Mion said afterwards, everything was forgiven. Huh? Huh? Mion, didn't you say Sachi-kun was forgiven? Didn't you? That's what I heard. I think that's what I heard. Or did I? Huh? She's about to go ballistic. She is. Oh boy. Oh boy. I felt the air move. There shouldn't have been a breeze in that room, but I felt it anyway. The cool air stroked the back of my neck. That was when my true self stood before me and nodded. Although there was no wind, my hair billowed. The burning wickedness buried deep inside my eyes became visible.
どうして北条聡君は鬼隠しにあったのでしょう
Why do you think Sachi Hojo-kun got demoned away? え?
聡君のご両親は確かに村を売ろうとしました
Sachi-kun's parents did in fact try to sell out the village.
お社様のたたりがあったのは当然です
They deserve the curse of Oishiro-sama.
でも聡君はその両親の子供であっただけ
But Sachi-kun was simply their son.
その聡君にどんな罪が
They deserve the curse of Oishiro-sama. I don't know if I read that before. What has he done?
ミヨンちゃん
Mion-chan.
聡君にどんな罪があったのかと尋ねています
I'm asking you what kind of crime Sachi-kun committed.
あなたはさっき罰当たりな北条家の坊主なら鬼隠しにあっても当然と言いました
You said earlier that he deserved to be demoned away because he was born of the Hojo family.
鬼隠しにあっても当然などんな罪があったのかと聞いているのです
What has he done to deserve being demoned away? Kimiyoshi didn't know what to say to the sudden question. He seemed dismayed.
聞かずともわかります
I didn't hear her say it, but I know.
園崎お涼が決めたのです
It was Oryu Sonozaki's decision.
お社様のたたりが及ぶのは北条の姓を持つすべての人間と決めたから
She decided that the curse of Oishiro-sama would fall upon all the Hojos.
待ってミヨンちゃん
Wait, Mion-chan.
別にそういうことが決まってるわけじゃない
That's not true.
決めたわけではないのですか
Didn't she decide that?
そうだよそんなことを決めたことなんかない
No, she didn't.
北条家にはお社様のたたりがいずれ下る
The curse of Oishiro-sama falling upon the Hojo family.
そういう話をおぼろげにしたことはあってもそんなにはっきりとしたことを言及したことは一度もないし誰もしてないよ
I do remember talking about something like that, but we never decided that. Nobody did.
ではさっきあなたが口にした北条の坊主ならいざ知れず
Then why did you say?
という言葉は何を根拠に出たものなのですか
Because he was one of the Hojos earlier.
ごめんよミヨンちゃん
Sorry, Mion-chan.
あれは言い過ぎたよ謝る
That was, I shouldn't have said that. No, I'm sorry.
そういうことです
That's just it.
北条家なら何があってもたたり
Anything that happens to the Hojo family is a curse.
北条の名を冠していればどうなろうが知ったことではないというそういう考えが蔓延していることが問題なのです
As long as someone has a Hojo name, nobody cares about what happens to that person. That idea spread like a virus amongst all the villagers.
サトシ君に罪があろうがなかろうが北条という姓があればそれで汚らわしい
It didn't matter if Sachi-kun did anything or not. Because he was a Hojo, he was filthy.
そういう考えが蔓延していることが問題なのです
That infection of an idea is the entire problem.
そしてあなたはその蔓延でいぶされた汚れた思考に汚染された迷信盲信許せないお前のような存在が許せない
Oh my God.
お前のようなやつがサトシ君たち一家を追い詰めてあんなにもすり減らしてサトシ君がかわいそう本当にかわいそう彼が何をしたの何もしてない何もやってないただ北条であっただけそれにどんな罪が罰がたたりが呪いがどうして降りかからねばならなかったのか一体サトシ君に何の罪があったというのか
Oh, that's really good. That was read really well. I gotta read it all, though. Try doing one breath here. And you all believed in that idea. You couldn't even think straight anymore. I already fucked it up. Let me try that again. And you believe... and you can't mess up one word. Alright. And you all believed in that idea. You couldn't even think straight anymore. I can't forgive you. I can't let someone like you exist. People like you cornered Sachikun and his family. Poor Sachikun. What has he done? He hasn't done anything. He was a Hojo. That's all. What kind of crime is that? Why did you curse the fall upon him? What kind of crime has he committed? I can't read, apparently. That's the best you're going to get out of me. Scream. Wah. Kimiyoshi's upper body bent backward and fell onto the floor. That was that. I put my stun gun back in my pocket. Oh, she's doing it. I told you she was going to snap. Too easy. See, the thing is, once you do it to one person, once you stun gun one person and you like take them out so that you can like, I guess, take them to your dungeon, it's a slippery slope. You're like, oh, that was easy. I did it once. I can do it so many times. Sorry, Shion. What was that you just said?
ゆうべ、高野さんと富武さんが死んだんだそうです。
Apparently, Takano-san and Tomitake-san died last night.
高野さんは焼死体で、
Takano-san was found burned to death.
富武さんは自殺みたいな感じで。
Tomitake-san was, well, looked like suicide.
今朝知ったんです。
I found out this morning.
お父さんが親類の人からの電話で話してるのを聞いて。
I heard my father talking to a relative on the phone about it. As I thought, Kechi didn't know anything about what happened at the festival last night.
マスコミに報道されないのは当然なんです。
Of course, it's not getting reported by media.
過去にそうだったから。
That's how it was in the past, too. Kechi insisted that unless he heard about it on the news, it couldn't be real. But the investigations into the series of mysterious deaths are done in secret now. Of course, he didn't hear about it on the news.
村長とか、あと園崎家出身の金バッジが警察に思いっきり圧力をかけたんだって聞いてます。
I hear the mayor and several important politicians from the Sonozaki family put all the pressure they could on the police.
じゃあつまり2人の死は秘密裏に処理されてしまったということか。
Then you mean their deaths are going to be dealt with in total secrecy?
そういうことです。
That's how it is.
もちろん警察は捜査をしてますよ。
Of course, the police are still investigating.
でも秘匿捜査ということなので、捜査活動にはかなりの制限が加えられているそうです。
That's being performed in secret too, though. So the investigation itself is very restricted in what it can and can't do.
これは事実上の捜査妨害と言えるでしょうね。
You could essentially say they're interfering with police investigation.
信じられない。
I can't believe this.
人が死んだのに、それが公にされず、ひそやかに処理されるなんて。
I can't believe this. People died and yet they're dealing with everything in secret?
もっと噛み砕いて言うと、
If we break it down further,
綿流しの夜に誰が死んでも公にはならないということです。
it means that no matter who dies on the night of Wabnagashi, it won't go public.
そんなバカな話があってたまるか。
That's the biggest pile of bullshit I've ever heard.
ケイちゃん、
Ki-chan,
私以前にお社様のたたりは村人が起こしてるかもしれないって言いましたよね。
remember how I said before that the villagers could be the ones carrying out Oishiro-sama's curse?
つまりそういうことなんです。
That's what I mean.
このひなみ沢では毎年綿流しの夜にお社様のたたりということにして誰かを殺してもいい土壌がいつの間にか作り上げられているんです。
At some point, a tradition was created here in Hinamazawa, where every year you're allowed to kill someone on the night of Wadanagashi. It's called the Purge. Yes, that's the truth about the series of mysterious deaths in Hinamazawa, also known as Oishiro-sama's curse. On the day of Wadanagashi, 2 people will be killed. The perpetrators are using the curse of Oishiro-sama as an excuse to kill one victim and make another disappear. That's why the curse of Oishiro-sama takes place. That's what happens in Hinamazawa. That's what happens with the curse. What Kimiyoshi said is all true. Infecting everyone with the idea that the enemy from the damn conflict deserved to die was the root of all this. That was the system of vague commands used in the Sonozaki family, created by its head, Oryu. One thing that must be mentioned about the command system is that the person giving the orders and the one executing them didn't need to interact in any way. Though Oryu was the commander, she never gave actual orders. She only had to expect something to happen. Every single one of the family council members around her would want to satisfy that expectation if given the chance. They didn't have to be proactive about satisfying it. They could be passive too. But when the chance arose, anyone who knew Oryu's intentions could potentially become the one to execute her orders. Therefore, Oryu would never know who actually executed her order, and none of the relatives knew it either. But they all knew things would conclude just as Oryu wanted, and they would assume it was one of their own who did it for her. This passive support system was thoroughly effective, and it spread all over the village. Its ties became even tighter around the dam conflict. Anyone could be the one to execute Oryu's orders. Therefore, everyone supported each other. If someone did something, then the others would try to satisfy Oryu's expectation in different ways. For example, they'd come up with false evidence or otherwise passively interfere with an investigation. Even if they didn't know exactly who they were protecting, they'd still work together to protect whoever it was. Yes, I had finally figured out how it all worked. Phrased in a more organized manner, it would go as follows. The system of killing 2 people who are unwanted by the village each year required 3 elements. The first element was a region of solidarity. It was created during the long and unique history of Hinamizawa. The villagers' bonds became even more tighter during the dam conflict. That was one of the conditions for this place to have a curse. It was an element that was already in the region, not one that could be created. The next element was having the same moral standards. This was a very important element, as the curse wouldn't have happened without it. Also, this element was created by Oryu Sonozaki herself. That was why she could claim that the system was established by her own will. Having the same moral standards means that everyone everywhere acknowledges the same enemy. Even when everyone in the village joined together, it would be meaningless if they all didn't know exactly who the enemy was. During the dam conflict, Oryu Sonozaki made the identity of the enemy very clear to everyone. They could just say that they were against the dam construction and that the government was their enemy. That wasn't clear enough. The government didn't really pinpoint who the enemy was. But Oryu made enemies out of the construction site itself, and therefore its manager. She chose targets that the villagers could see with their own eyes. They were clear and easy to understand. The villagers acknowledged that everyone at the dam construction site was their enemy, and that construction site manager was the enemy commander. Using the same method, she labeled one after another as an enemy of the village, practically cataloging a list of enemies to print into the villagers' minds. Earlier, I'd used the term infecting for this phenomenon. Those infected by this idea were the people unconsciously given the orders to commit murder. When the infection spread across the village, when all of Hinamizawa's residents acknowledged the same enemy, that's when Hinamizawa itself became a murderer. Oryu combined those 2 elements, the solidary region and having the same moral standards, then selected the enemy and spread that notion throughout the village. The law would normally have punished both the one who committed the crime and the one who gave the order, but Oryu's system didn't require an order at all. Oryu just had to become concerned about the enemy she had pre-selected, but that alone wouldn't cause the curse to take place. Oryu's concern was likely a safety device, and even when the safety device was off, the curse wouldn't occur unless there was a finger to pull the trigger. The last necessary element was to set a date for execution, the night of Watanagashi, the night to venerate Oishiro-sama, the guardian deity of Hinamizawa. On that night, the curse of Oishiro-sama falls upon 2 enemies of the village, and they disappear. Everyone in the village acknowledged that as fact. In other words, if the same incident took place on any of the other 364 nights of the year, it would be nothing other than a murder case. But if it happens on the night of Watanagashi, then it would transform into the curse of Oishiro-sama. The idea that villagers are allowed to kill their enemies on the night of Watanagashi had infected them. The villagers were the cells of this huge creature called Hinamizawa, and each cell would be taught who the enemy was. The set date was basically a green light for whoever was in the best position to kill the enemy. That was the truth of the curse of Oishiro-sama. Therefore, the one who actually killed Satsuki-kun isn't my enemy. The one who set up this murder system and the one who named Sachiko-kun's family as the enemy is my enemy. To use a broader definition, Hinamazawa itself and the very system of Oishiro-sama's curse is my enemy. I already killed the hag, the one who designed the system. Kimiyoshi, the one whose job it was to infect the villagers with the system, was already in my hands. I just had to find out who else was involved and how much. It was like pulling a weed while being very careful not to break its roots. I announced that Kechimaibara was one of the people who snuck into the shrine's storage. I was certain that fact had already spread throughout the underside of the village. In other words, Kechimaibara was an object of the curse of Oishiro-sama now. Takano-san and Tomatake-san were found dead, having been killed in gruesome ways. That was the curse of Oishiro-sama. In that case, they could demon away 2 more people as sacrifices to calm the anger of Oishiro-sama. The set date for the curse was already over. But just like what happened to Sachiko-kun, demoning away was allowed a little extra time. Something would happen to Kechimaibara within a few days. I'd wait patiently, careful to not let my enemy simply take Kechimaibara, my bait. Kechi had been yelling on the other end of the phone for some time. He kept yelling that he didn't want to go into the ritual storehouse to begin with. He claimed he was simply invited by Takano-san and me. He shouldn't be in danger because of that, he said. He was feeling a sense of crisis and tension. This was going to work. The livelier the bait, the easier it is to spot. Why the hell did you do that? I didn't have anything to do with this. What will you do? What are you going to do, damn it? How are you going to take responsibility for this? Huh? Hey, are you listening? Shut up. I've heard enough of your pitiful tears. I hung up the phone. There was no point talking to him when he got like that. Besides, I'd already achieved my goal, which was to make him realize the danger awaiting him. I took a deep breath and called the house of the village chief.
Hey.
Hello?
Kimiyoshi desu.
Kimiyoshi residence.
園崎です。
This is Sonozaki.
どうです？
So?
村長さんは見つかりましたか？
Did you find the mayor?
ああ、ミオンちゃんか。
Oh, it's you, Mion-chan.
片っ端から電話をかけてみたけど、ダメだよ。
We've been calling everyone, but no luck.
見つからないんだ。
We can't find him.
参ったな。
I don't know who else to call.
どこで油売ってるのかな。
I wonder where he is.
こっちでも心当たりにいろいろと問い合わせましたけど、全然。
We've called a few places too, but nothing.
バッチャにも相談したんですが、青年団を招集して探し回った方がいいだろうということです。
I talked to Granny, and she says we should have the youth group look for him.
こんな時間にかい？
At this time of day?
それに別に行方不明になったと決まったわけでもないし。
Besides, we aren't even sure if he's really missing.
綿流しの直後ですから。
It's right after Watanagashi.
少し慎重に扱った方がいいとのことです。
She just thinks we should be cautious.
それでも見つからないなら、明朝を警察に通報しましょう。
If the youth group can't find him, we should call police first thing in the morning.
見つかる見つからないは別にして、痛くない腹を探られない方がいいでしょうから。
We'd rather not get the police involved unless we really have to, though.
おりょうさんがそう言ったのかい？
Did Oryu-san say that?
はい。
Yes.
直接声を聞かないと信用できないなら、電話先に出させますよ。
If you don't believe me, I'll have her get on the phone.
いえ。
Oh, no.
わかりました。
I understand.
青年団を集めて探しましょう。
Okay, we'll gather a youth group and look for him.
それで見つからなければ、翌朝に警察に通報します。
If they can't find him, we'll call the police in the morning.
青年団の連絡もよろしくお願いしますね。
Please call the leader of the youth group then.
私もバッチャの代行ということでそちらに参ります。
I'll be right over in Granny's place.
ありがとう。
Thank you.
すぐにみんなを集めます。
I'll get everyone together right away.
ええ。
Okay.
では。
See you later. The youth group had gathered at the Furude Shrine. They were going to try to find the mayor. I also had to go in the absence of the hag. Just to be mean, I stopped by the underground torture room to let the mayor know that I was headed to the Furude Shrine to search for him. Damn, she's cold. Incidentally, according to the tab on the keychain, this underground torture room was actually called the underground storehouse for ritual implements. This was the man who was yelling. This was the man who was yelling that whoever trespasses on the ritual storehouse would be killed. Although it was an underground ritual storehouse, he was there now atoning for what he had done. It's pretty ironic. Maybe I was the only one who felt that way, though.
君吉のおじいちゃん、お具合はいかがですか?
How are you doing, Uncle Kimiyoshi? Clink. Kimiyoshi didn't say a word, but he made a noise with the chain.
今ね、村中でおじいちゃんの姿が見えなくなったって大騒ぎしてますよ。
Everyone's making such a fuss because they can't find you.
おじいちゃんの家から相談が来たので、青年団を招集して捜索を行うことにしました。
Your family called me, so I suggest they gather a youth group to look for you.
これから行ってくるところです。
I'm heading there now. Was this mean, or what? Kimiyoshi could only make noise with the chain. Couldn't even express any emotion other than anguish.
鎖、少し長くしてあげましょうか。
Is the chain too short?
私の質問にちゃんと答えてくれるたびに、そうですね。鎖の輪っか、1個分長くしてあげます。
Why don't I make it longer every time you give me an answer to a question?
あと3個も長くなれば、だいぶ楽になると思うんですけどね。
If it's even a little longer, you'll feel better. Kimiyoshi's hands were tied behind his back with a tight wire. He was wearing a leather collar with a chain, which was strapped tightly around his neck, too. The collar's chain was on a pulley attached to the ceiling, with the chain pulling him up toward it. That chain was very short and pulled very tight. Kimiyoshi had to stand on tiptoes to be able to breathe. He had been like that for almost an hour already. He was already exhausted. If I left him overnight, he'd probably end up hanging himself.
さっきは知らないと言われましたけど、
You told me earlier that you didn't know,
もう一回尋ねます。
but I'll ask you one more time.
北条聡君について知っていることを教えてください。
Please tell me anything you know about Satoshi Hojo-kun. Oh.
ああ、ごめんなさい。
Oh, sorry.
喋りたくても喋れません?
You can't even talk, can you?
じゃあ、私とおしゃべりの間だけちょっと緩めましょう。
I'll loosen the chain a little while we chat then. I turned the pulley just a little to loosen the chain that was pulling on Kimiyoshi's neck. Kimiyoshi's heels finally touched the ground, relieving the pressure on his muscles.
知らないんだよ、シオンちゃん。
I really don't know, Shion-chan.
本当に知らないんだ。
I really don't.
サトシ君が生きてるのか死んでるのか、それすらも。
Don't you even know if he's dead or alive?
おじいちゃんは本当に何も知らないんだよ。
I really don't know anything.
ま、ひなみ沢のたたりのシステムはそういう部分で機密性を保持していますからね。
Well, I guess that's how the curse system of Hinamizawa works.
おじいちゃんが知らないというのもありえなくはないことです。
It's possible you really don't know anything.
なら聞き方を変えます。
Okay, then I'll change the question.
サトシ君がどうなってるのか、君吉家当主の立場でご意見を伺いたいです。
As the head of the Kimiyoshi family, I would like to tell you what you think. I would like you to tell me what you think has happened to Satoshi-kun.
サトシ君は
Is
生きてる？
Satoshi-kun dead?
死んでる？
Or alive? Kimiyoshi didn't know what to say. If he said he didn't know, I'd tighten the chain and leave the room. That would be like a death sentence for him. But all I said was that I wanted him to speak as the head of the Kimiyoshi family. I didn't ask him to tell the truth. But he didn't know what to say to avoid souring my mood and to get me to loosen the chains around him. He was obviously trying to figure out how to make me extend the chain.
生きてるんじゃないかって噂を聞いたことがある。
I've heard a rumor that he may be alive.
ああ、新幹線で東京にってやつですね。
Ah, about him going to Tokyo on a bullet train, right?
警察が東京で姿を見たというようなのを聞いた覚えが。
The police have seen him in Tokyo, something like that. Oishi has told me that Satoshi-kun had been witnessed getting on a bullet train heading to Tokyo at Nagoya Station. But the police didn't know if that was really happened or what became of Satoshi-kun after that. Therefore, this is simply a random assertion of Kimiyoshi's.
ねえ、君吉家の当主様？
Hey, head of the Kimiyoshi family.
呪われた一族、北条家の人間を わざわざ失踪なんていう凝った消し方をしていて、わざわざ生かしておくのにどんな理由があるんです？
What would be the point in letting one of the cursed family members live after going through the trouble of making him disappear?
ないんじゃないですか？
I don't think there's any reason for that.
それに、その東京で警察が見たという情報ソースを教えてください。
Besides, who gave you this information?
私は大石と一時期連絡を密にしていましたが、そんなのは聞いたことないです。
I was in close contact with Oishi for a while, but he never mentioned it to me.
おじいちゃん、
Uncle?
私の機嫌を取ろうとしていい加減なことを言ったなら、かえって怒っちゃいますよ。
If you're just saying that to make me happy, it's not going to work. You know that, don't you? I reached for the pulley controlling the chains around Kimiyoshi. That act alone set him panicking as he feared them tightening once more.
ごめんよ。
Sorry.
別にシオンちゃんを怒らせようなんてつもりはないんだよ。謝るよ。
I'm not trying to make you angry, Shion-chan. I'm sorry.
私、ご機嫌取りの話なら聞きたくないんで。
I don't have time for this.
君吉のおじいちゃんにサトシ君のことを調べる協力をお願いしてるだけなんです。
I'm simply asking you to help me look for Sachi-kun. That's all.
わかってる。ちゃんと真面目に考えるから。
I know that. I'll answer you. I took my hand off the pulley. Seeing that, Kimiyoshi began making loud groaning noises to try and show he was thinking hard.
ズバリ、
Be frank with me.
生きていると思いますか？
Do you think he's alive?
死んでいると思いますか？
Or dead?
生きてると考えるのは難しいんじゃないかと思う。
I think you shouldn't think he is alive.
ですよね。
That figures.
生かしておくことで伴う膨大なリスクを負う意味ないですもんね。
There was no point in letting him live. Jesus, I must be tired. There was no point in letting him live, right?
私だって同感ですし。
I agree with you. I really didn't mean anything too deep by it, but what I said truly scared Kimiyoshi.
警察は、おば殺しの犯人がサトシ君で、サトコの誕生日プレゼントを買うために貯めてた貯金で逃亡したと、そう考えてました。
The police think he ran, using the money he saved to buy Satoko's birthday present because he was the main suspect of his aunt's murder.
この辺、どう思います？
What do you think about that?
でもその犯人は確か麻薬中毒の危ないやつだと聞いたよ。
Well, I heard that the culprit was some kind of drug addict.
あれ、どう思います？
What do you think about that?
私は私がこう言うのも変だけど、サトシ君がおば殺しの犯人だって信じてるんですよ。
Maybe I shouldn't say this, but I believe Sachi-kun is the culprit.
あいつは、例えばばあさんあたりに買収されて仕立て上げられた身代わりじゃないかと思うんですけど。
The drug addict was probably a decoy Grandma arranged.
それはおじいちゃんも思ってたよ。
I've suspected as much.
突然ひょっこりと真犯人でしたなんて言われて。
That guy appeared out of nowhere.
腑に落ちなかった。
I didn't understand it at the time.
やっぱり身代わり？
So, he was a decoy.
多分そうじゃないかと思うよ。
I'm pretty sure.
何のためにだと思います？
Why do you think that, though?
警察はサトシ君が犯人だと思って捜査を進めてたんだよね。
The police were investigating the case, and Sachi-kun was their primary suspect, wasn't he?
サトシ君を鬼隠しということで失踪させておきたいと思うなら、
If he was going to be demoned away,
警察の捜査がいつまでも続くのは面白くなかったんじゃないかな。
she didn't want the police to continue the investigation, I guess. What Kimiyoshi just said is very interesting. He's perfectly correct. If the police continue their investigation, it would complicate things for whoever demoned away Sachi-kun. Therefore, Hag came up with a decoy in order to bring an end to the investigation.
でも、そんな犯人のでっち上げなんて、そうそう簡単にできることじゃないですよ。
But fabricating a suspect can't be that easy, don't you agree?
お嬢さん以外にはできないよ。
The only person who can do things like that.
そんなことは
is Oryu-san?
ばあさんが裏の世界で相当の力を持ってるというのは私も知ってはいますけど。
I knew Grandma was very I knew Grandma was very powerful in the underside of Hinamizawa,
そんなにもあったんですね。
but I never knew she was that powerful.
シオンちゃんだっていろいろとダウン戦争の頃から噂は聞いてるだろうし、中には実際に直接聞いたものもあるんじゃないかい？
I'm sure you've heard quite a few rumors during the dam conflict. Didn't you also hear things directly? During the dam protests, I actually saw them issuing orders to my relatives. Like, destroy their heavy machinery. Or, can we set up a checkpoint to blockade their construction vehicles? They set free their comrades from the police by coming up with alibis, destroying or forging evidence. I had seen relatives do those things, as well as the hag calling in counselors to the house to protest. As a child, I was pretty impressed. But when I thought back, it was more than that. She was truly the mastermind who controlled the underside of the world.
シオンちゃんだって建設省の幹部の息子というか建設大臣の孫だな。あれの誘拐事件の話は知ってるだろう。
You've heard about the kidnapping case of the grandson of the Minister of Construction, right?
あれってやっぱ誘拐だったんですか？
So, it was really kidnapping, huh?
孫が鬼隠しになって高津戸だか矢口だかの山奥で見つかったって話は知ってたんですけどね。
I heard the grandson was demoned away and then found in the middle of the mountains in Takatsuro or Yagoichi.
あれはお嬢さんの指図によるものだよ。
That was at Oryu-san's command.
ダム工事の中止の約束が取り付けられたんで、孫を釈放したっていうのは、おじいちゃんたち旧同盟の幹部ならみんな知ってる。
The minister promised to stop the dam construction and the grandson was released. All the top people in the ex-guardians know that.
ふーん。
Hmm?
身近にいすぎて私がよく分かってなかっただけで。
I guess I was right in the middle of it when it was happening, but I didn't notice.
やっぱりばあさんとか御三家とか旧同盟って大したもんだったんですね。
The hag, the three families, and the ex-guardians are truly magnificent, huh?
怖い怖い。
How terrifying. Kimiyoshi finally realized the situation he was in. He was answering my questions. That made me happy, but the more Kimiyoshi told me the truth, the more I realized Satoshi-kun really was dead. It made me very sad.
サトシ君を鬼隠しにした実行犯は誰だと思います？
Who actually demoned away Satoshi-kun?
わからないよ。
I don't know.
それに誰が実際にやったかは問わないのが不分律だったから。
We were never to ask who actually executed Oryu-san's orders. He was right. That was how the system worked. And so, that was a bad question.
誰がやったにせよ大したものですよね。
Whoever it was did a great job.
だって人を殺して死体も出てこないなんて結構簡単なことじゃないんじゃないですか？
Because his body hasn't been found. It's not easy.
誰が殺したかは別にして、
Putting aside who actually killed him.
例えば死体の処理をお嬢さんが手伝ったという可能性は考えられるよ。
It is possible Oryu-san has helped to get rid of the body.
今いるここの奥に死体を捨てるための井戸があることは知ってるだろう。
You know about the well further down from here, the one used to dump bodies, don't you?
ああ、確かに。
Oh, does she? Yeah, I do.
どこかの山中に埋めるくらいならここの井戸に捨てる方が絶対に安全ですもんね。
It's a lot safer to dump a body in the well than to bury it somewhere in the mountains. Whoever disappears becomes a sacrifice to calm the anger of Oyashiro-sama. That was the rule of this game. Therefore, the bodies must never be discovered. That's why the bodies had to be dumped somewhere nobody could find them. It's very possible that the well was used for that. Then, Satoshi-kun is at the bottom of that well. I grabbed a flashlight and headed to the huge cave with all the cells. As I turned on the lights in the cave, Mion noticed me and gave me a worried look. I ignored her, damn, and headed to the cell in the back. I was still very impressed by how the well was hidden. It was almost artistic. I shone the flashlight at the bottom of the well. I had no way of knowing how deep the well was, The lights of the flashlight was strong enough to reach the bottom. I inhaled, then screamed into the well.
サトシ君
Satoshi-kun!
サトシ君
Satoshi-kun! Satoshi-kun's name echoed again and again. It was obviously a very deep well. I thought of climbing down using the wedges on the wall, but with the flashlight hanging from my neck, I couldn't light my footing properly. And even if there was enough lighting, I didn't even know if the wedges were sturdy enough. It would be like committing suicide. Satoshi-kun was at the bottom of this well. That's when I felt it. A warm hand rubbed my head, for sure. Shion? You finally found me. Satoshi-kun. Satoshi-kun. Satoshi-kun! I've been looking for you for so long. God, she's losing it. I'm sorry I couldn't find you while you were still alive. Sorry. I'm sorry. It's not your fault, Shion. There was nothing you could have done before I was killed. But you did everything you could do after I was dead. Satoshi-kun, I want to join you. I'm coming right now. I'm going to jump, so please catch me. Satoshi-kun smiled bitterly. I was saddened to see him reject me. Shion, I'm happy that you found me. But you are alive, Shion. It's so important to be alive. You can't waste it. If you aren't here, I don't want to live. I want to be with you, Satoshi-kun. I want to be close to you. I want you to rub my head again. I want to spend time with you. I'll be a good girl. I want to be with you. Live. Do I have to? Live and enjoy your life, okay? What's so fun about living alone? You'll find out, so long as you're alive.
生きる
To live.
生きるよ
I will
生
live.
きる
I will live. The eerie well now felt warm. I wasn't allowed to go down to the bottom. But the edge of this well was a place where you and I could meet.
Mion.
I thought it was ending there. I thought we were done. Mion.
サトシ君見つけた
Satoshi-kun. I found him.
井戸の底なんだね
He's at the bottom of the well, isn't he?
そうだと思う
I think so.
そこしかないもん
I can't think of anywhere else he would be. Mion started to sob.
ミオンはサトシ君が殺されるところには居合わせなかったんだよね
You weren't there when Satoshi-kun was killed, were you?
うん
No.
もし居合わせたら
If you were there,
サトシ君を許してもらえるようばあさんに意見してくれたかな
would you have begged Grandma to forgive him?
絶対にする
Yes.
せめて命だけはって
I would have begged
絶
her
対
to.
に言うよ
I would have begged her to let him live.
嘘だ
Liar.
え
Huh?
嘘だ
You liar! On that day, a year ago, I had just recalled how cruel Mion was then, when she forced me to rip out my nails acting in her role as the successor. Even if she was there when Satoshi-kun was killed, she wouldn't have stopped being the successor. Satoshi-kun was brought to the torture room. When he saw Mion, I'm sure he thought she would save him. Even as he heard the family head read out his death sentence, I'm sure he looked at Mion and believed that she would save him. He believed Mion was acting that way only because she was with her relatives. He believed she would help him, but she didn't do anything. He was strapped to a restraining device, yet she still wouldn't do anything. Mion was cruel. Mion, isn't it about time to help me? I see. I get it. You're with the rest of the family members, so you can't even show a hint of compassion. Ha 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 ha. That sucks. Help him! Help him!
なんで助けないの
Why? Why didn't you help him?
サトシ君の助けを懇願する眼差しを見てどうして心を動かされなかったの
You saw him looking at you, begging to help him, didn't you? Why didn't you help him?
あんたはサトシ君が意地悪おばのせいで追い詰められていた時から何も救いを差し
Even when he was going through a rough time because of his awful aunt, you didn't help him.
あんたは同情する素振りを見せるだけで助けなかった。見殺した。
You pretended to sympathize, but you didn't help him. You ignored him.
あんたがサトシ君を助けなかったから追い詰められたんだ。
He was cornered because you didn't help him.
私は救おうと頑張ったよ。彼の心の支えになろうと頑張った。
I tried to support him.
あんたらがサトシ君のおば殺しをかばわなくても。
Even when you didn't protect him from killing his aunt, I did.
私は彼のアリバイのために自らを投げ打って戦った。その結果が爪3枚なんて安いもんでしょ。
I sacrificed myself to fight for him. 3 nails were nothing.
でもね、それだけの努力じゃサトシ君を救うには全然足りなかった。
But it wasn't enough to rescue Satsuki-kun.
届かなかった。どうしてか。
I couldn't help him. Do you know why?
だって私はシオンだったんだもん。
Because I was Shion then.
シオンはひなみ沢から遠ざけられていて、何からも戸ざまで何も教えられなくて知れなくて。
As Shion, I was kept away from Hinamizawa and nobody told me anything. I couldn't know anything.
でもあんたは違う。
But you were
あんた
different.
はミオンだった。
You were Mion.
あんたはひなみ沢のうちにいて、すべての中心で全てを教えられて全てを知ることができた。
You were right in the middle of everything and you knew everything and everyone told you everything.
私があんただったらきっとサトシ君を救えた。
If I were you, I could have helped Satsuki-kun.
私なら救ってあげられた。
I would have.
あんたがミオンになったからだ。
But you were Mion.
返してミオン。
Give it back, Mion.
もともとミオンはあんただけのもんじゃない。
That name isn't just yours.
私のものでもあったはず。
It's mine too.
それにもともとミオンは私のじゃない。
Besides, it was mine to begin with, remember?
私があんたに貸してあげるようになっただけで、本当は私のだったじゃない。
I just let you be Mion, remember? It was mine!
返せ。私のミオンを返せ。
Give it back to me. Give me my name back. I was thinking about this when it started talking about how when they were young, they would constantly be like switching places and stuff. At that time, I was like, oh, that very much opens it up to the fact that, like, who knows, as the reader here, who are we to say, like, who originally was the Mion? If they were switching back and forth, and we've already done this whole, like, song and dance of, like, them switching places constantly at different times, like, I was like, oh, this feels like it might be revealed at some point, like, even the one that we have known as Shion throughout this whole game maybe was originally supposed to be the original Mion, you know? And that's what this line seems to imply. It was mine to begin with. Twin Mion Shion fuckery, you know? Who is who? Who can we believe?
お前がミオンの外見をしているだけでも無実が走る。
I can't stand that you even look like Mion.
お前じゃなく私がミオンだったら、だったら
If I were Mion, then. Also, this even adds like another weird layer to the whole thing. So the whole thing, right, is when Kechi goes back, assuming this chapter follows the same events of previous chapters, when Kechi goes down into this underground thing and he starts freaking out that he sees who he thinks is Shion in the cell. The person in the cell is actually assuming there's no more trading place fuckery here, he thinks he sees Shion in the cell, but it's actually Mion. Why did I say Shell? Again, I think I'm just, my brain is, you know, it's been a long day. He thinks, at that time, he thinks he sees Shion in the cell. It's because Shion, so I said Shell. Shion in the cell, but it's really the person he's known this whole time as Mion in the cell. But at this point, this is Shion, the one we as the reader have known as Shion the whole time. She is yelling at Mion, saying, I'm taking back my name. So technically, if we're to follow and say that she does take back the name of Mion and she's acting as Mion, then she claims back Mion as a name and as a personality. And then that would make it Shion in the cell. So it is Shion in the cell, when Kechi runs into her, but it's not the Shion he knew, it's the Mion he knew. It's a lot. I kicked the bars. I kicked them again and again. Mion curled up fearfully in the back of the cell, as if she were trying to prevent the bars from crashing down onto her. Oh! Oh boy. Oh, this has been, ooh. This was a stretch of reading, wasn't it? Oh. I need to stretch. Ooh, boy. Ooh, it's a lot. That was a lot. That was a lot. That was a lot. Shion's got that dog in her. Oh no, it's the wrong type of dog. Oh god. She's indiscriminately torturing and killing people. Let's read this notebook page. After that, I joined the youth group in the search for Kimiyoshi. I went down the town council's phone directory and called to see if he had visited, and had the group split according to the circular notice divisions and sent them to search the town. Everybody seemed to be assuming they wouldn't find him, but since I knew they definitely never would, it was just bothersome to me. Oh, it's like back in, there was a recent season of Survivor. You know, the whole thing, like, there's hidden immunity idols, and then, like, someone found, like, really early on in the season. I can't remember if it was the last one or the one before that. I actually think it was this most recent one. She found the idol pretty early on, and then there's, like, clues to the hidden immunity idol. It's like an advantage in the game of Survivor, for all you non-Survivor heads out there. And then, but she found the idol, so she found that ultimate prize there. She ended up, not to spoil the series or season, but she ended up, you know, losing pretty early. The idol did her no good because she sucked. But she still hid the clues to where the idol was. So then the rest of her tribe found the clues and was on this wild goose chase to try to find the idol when it wasn't there. And she honestly, looking back at it, she was like overacting about like, oh, come on guys, we gotta find it. Oh, it's gotta be over here. Oh, it's gotta be over there. And then when someone finally like floated the idea like, oh, someone might have found it and now we're just looking for nothing, you know, someone like put that idea, she was very quick to start pointing at other people and being like, yeah, that person seems like they would do something like that. And I think it kind of came back to bite her. She was overplaying just a tad. Pretty good. Even after midnight, they were all still enthusiastically looking for him. I bore the sleepiness while yawning. I'm sure no one wanted to hear me talk about Survivor. I'm a big old Survivor head, though. I was like a lapsed Survivor head. I was a bigger Survivor when I was younger, and then I stopped watching it during like my university years, just because I was doing a lot of other things. And then in the last like, 3-4 years or so, I got back to really watching it. Although I don't watch live, because I don't have like a TV subscription or anything like that. I just watch it always the next day. Then I heard somebody whisper. Last year, we did the same thing when Sachi Hojo-kun went missing. The youth group was looking for someone who would never be found, just like last year. I was yawning because I knew this. Last year, there must have been some people who were yawning and grinning on the inside. When did we stop searching last year? Do you remember?
工場のとこのサトシの時かい？
When Satoshi Hojo-kun went missing? Or was missing?
あれは何時だったっけ
Oh, what time was it?
午前の0時過ぎくらいには解散したような気がするな。
I guess that was around midnight. It was already 2 in the morning. Although they spent this much time searching for Kimiyoshi, they didn't do the same when Satoshi-kun went missing. After all, some people knew they wouldn't find him. They must have been sleepy. They must have said they should leave it to the police. Shit, I want to kill the people who said that. Well, as I said, what a stream. I'm curious where this goes. I mean, there can't be, at least, I don't want to say there's not much left of the chapter because I have no idea, but at least as far as we know of what happens, right? We still have to have, assuming we follow the same things, same events, obviously from a different perspective, but we have to see the moment Ketchy goes down in there, right? Like, that's probably where we're leading to be the big thing, you'd imagine that's going to be a big thing here. Potentially the final big thing of the chapter, maybe. Crazy chapter, though. Crazy stretch. Yeah. It's kind of interesting to be able to... I mean, we kind of talked about it back in chapter 3, when we were reading from Ketchy's perspective, and we got to see him muster up the energy and courage to basically murder the uncle. This is like on a whole nother level of this. This is, we're seeing through the eyes of Shion just lay waste. She's like, fuck these people, fuck this village. Scorched earth, Shion. And I respect it. As always, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed another lovely almost 4 hours with me here on stream reading. Not one of my strongest reading sessions, I would say, if I was to harshly judge myself. Missed up on some words there. Like I said, it's been a long day. I've had a long day. I was up quite early. I had to be up early, and I was out and about. I was using energy and stuff, so apologies for that. Higurashi Tuesday should still be happening, so that's when the next Higurashi stream will be, in case you want to know. If you want to watch live, you can watch it on Twitch. You can join in the chat if you want to be a part of that. If not, it'll be up on VOD then, you know, generally 2 or 3 days after. Tomorrow, I want to be back on tomorrow night. I'll probably play the game The Wheel Spun on. So we'll probably start to check out Rhyme. I'm pretty sure that's probably not going to be one stream, though. It'll probably be like 2 or 3. I would imagine. I would guess. And then, you know, start next week, we're probably going to have to start adding probably at least one other game to the rotation, because we finished Somnium Files last night. So I gotta figure out what that game will be. I had some ideas, but I need to maybe hit the drawing board again. I'm thinking. I had no time to like think about it today, though, unfortunately. Thanks so much for watching. Again, I hope you really enjoyed. Enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy the rest of whenever you're watching it. Whenever you get to hear me say these words. Look forward to the next stream. Look forward to the next Higurashi stream. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to say. I don't think there is, other than stay safe. Stay well. Things, as they tend to do, will find a way to get a lot dumber before we're on. What am I trying to say? We're on the slippery slope. Things are about to get probably really dumb here. So, where I live, at least. So, yeah, I wish everyone the best of luck. Sounds so grim. All right, until next stream. See you in another one.